Good morning and welcome, everyone. I'm calling the 453rd Council meeting to order. Welcome to everyone and thank you for joining us today in person as well as virtually. Quick reminder, Council members, please have your video on during the meeting. Mute yourself unless you are speaking. We are live streaming this meeting through the RCDSO's YouTube channel so that members of the public, profession, and other interested parties can watch our proceedings. I would like to now do the land acknowledgement. The RCDSO is on the traditional lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Huron-Wendat peoples. These traditional lands are known to some as Toronto. Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit and is home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people from across Turtle Island. This land is also part of the Dish with One Spoon territory, a treaty between allied nations to peaceably share and care for this land. We accept our responsibility to each other and this land we live and work on in a spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. We are committed to actively supporting the necessary work towards truth, reconciliation, and equity. We embrace the role we play in regulating dentists, in protecting the public interest, and in strengthening our partnerships with Indigenous communities to advance access to safe and equitable oral health care. Thank you. I'm going to turn to Dan now, please, to do the roll call.
Thank you, Hanno. And Council, as per usual, I will go through in alphabetical order by last name. So please get ready to unmute your microphone. So we will start now with Patrick Ballantyne.
Here.
Nalan Bhargava.
Present.
Ram Chopra.
Present.
Thank you, Ram. James Colliver.
Present.
Christina Cordero sends regrets. Peter Delane.
Present.
Daniel Fortino.
Present.
Neil Gujar.
Present.
Noha Goma.
Present.
Daniel Haas.
Present.
Iliad Horner-Parver.
Present.
Vivian Hu.
Present.
Nizar Ladak.
Present.
Anthony Licio.
Present.
Anthony Mayer.
Present.
Harinder Sandhu.
Present.
Adele Simeoni.
Present.
Brian Smith.
Present.
Osama Solomon.
Present.
Robin Somerville.
Present.
Rod Stapleforth. Did I hear Rod? Sorry, I didn't hear Rod, but I did see him earlier. Okay, we'll watch for him. Mark Trudell.
Present.
Aaron Walker.
Present.
Judy Welikovich.
Present.
And Deborah Wilson.
Present.
Thank you. Back to you, Hanno.
Thanks, Dan. At this point in time, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Harinder Sandhu to provide the President's remarks. Harinder, please.
Thank you, Hanno. And good morning, everyone. Council, before I begin, I want to let you know that we are about to welcome a new public council member, Ms. Adele Simone. Adele Simone is an accomplished human resources leader, a transformation strategist. She is recognized as a champion of talent and culture. Adele brings deep and broad experience in human resources leadership, most recently at Earnscliffe Strategies and HR Business Management Solutions. She also serves as a board director at the Bethel Hospital Foundation. Adele was appointed by Order in Council on November 27th for a 3-year term. We are so pleased to have her expertise at this table. Council, could we take a moment to welcome Adele? Please give her a hand.
Thank you. Thank you.
Adele, we look forward to work with you and to utilize the talent you bring to the council. I also just want to add one more good news. I just heard this morning Dr. Noah Goma has been given the tenure and has been promoted to associate professor at University of Western Ontario. What that means is that university community has recognized her as her accomplishments, her research, her leadership, and look forward to continue to work with her as well. So please welcome and give Noah a good hand as well.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. So today I'm very pleased to see you all, Council, RCDO staff, and all our observers. We have some special observers today. As you will recall, we are embarking on our regular process of Council evaluation. In this, we are working with Satori Consulting, which is a Canadian-owned firm with over 20 years of experience in broad evaluation and education. Today, they will be observing and assessing this council meeting and our materials. The recording of our public meeting is also being observed by the members of the Citizens Advisory Group. They bring patient and caregiver voices and perspectives to healthcare regulation in Ontario. We welcome observers, both formal and informal. They are the reason we stream these meetings. Transparency is one of the ways we serve the public and keep the public interest at the forefront. Transparency is a theme today and a value that we hold. It is a quality of being open to public scrutiny. Today, we are introducing a new procedure that will help make our voting more transparent. For every council vote, with the exception of the consent agenda, we are going to start using a roll call. In a virtual setting, it can sometimes be challenging in the context of live meeting to track raised hands across multiple Zoom screens. A roll call gives us a clear record of each council member's position, whether that's a yes or no or abstention. And it reinforces transparency and accountability in our governance process. It can also reflect a healthy discussion and debate. It makes room for a diversity of views. As a reminder, not every vote will be unanimous, and that is fine. However, decisions are effectively decisions of the council. Once a matter receives a majority or two-thirds majority of votes, it is passed. Thank you in advance for your patience as we work through our new process. I will turn now, Council, to highlight some of our topics today. As you will see, governance, finance, divestment, vision, all significant governance matters. Today, we will have an opportunity to finalize key elements of the governance modernization project. This has been in the works for many, many months, and your advice has been crucial in the development. And as we do every year at this time, we receive a report from our Chief Financial Officer on the planning for 2026. This presentation is a result of months of work by staff and significant analysis by the Finance, Audit, and Risk Committee. We will also hear from our Deputy Registrar on our long-term vision. This is a result of our work in June together. Most of Council was able to take the time to help create a 10-year vision for the college. I was impressed then about the wisdom and insight we have at this table. Our role as governors is vision. We're able to look far out. It is why we are here. We're progressing today toward the divestment of PLP. It has been many years in the making. In less than a month, Navacord, one of Canada's largest and fastest growing multi-line insurance brokerages, will take over the PLP program. Staff are working very hard on the transition, even as we speak. As of January 1st, 2026, claims, both new and historical, will be handled by the existing staff of the PLP, who will become employees of Navacord. Staff have done an exceptional amount of work to get us to this place. Thank you very much, all of you. This marks a pivotal moment for the college, a period of transformation for the profession and for our staff. Council, your guidance has been instrumental throughout this process. Your insight and direction have been essential to making this transition possible. As I conclude, I want to extend my sincere thanks to everyone who made today's meeting possible. To the entire RCDO staff team, your support and guidance are the foundation of strong governance. You keep us focused on the public interest and help us bring our best selves to the table. As always, there are a number of people who join us via YouTube. Thank you so much for your interest in the college. With that, Hannah, I turn it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Harinder. Council, next on the agenda is Declaration of Conflict of Interest. Declaration of conflicts are a standard that is captured in the Ministry of Health College Performance Measurement Framework. So at this point in time, I am going to take a moment to canvass Council to see if any members feel that they have a conflict of interest, real or perceived, to declare for any of the agenda items that will be discussed today. And please indulge me, I see a number of hands up. I will simply ask those people to express where they feel their conflict lies. Daniel Haas?
Yes, thank you. Just regarding item 12, which is optimizing the RCDSO faculty contribution and student awards, there is a potential of a perceived conflict of interest with the two academic appointees. And I will let Noha confirm or correct what I'm about to say. But yesterday we did have a brief email discussion with Dan and Alan Bromstein regarding this. We do not believe that we have a COI on this topic because it does not benefit us personally. So we plan on staying on for that item. However, if a member of council objects, then we will not participate in the discussion or vote on it. And Mr. Chair, I'd ask if you ask Noha to confirm or correct what I just said. Thank you so much.
I will do that as well. So actually, I'm going to jump right to you now, Noha.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah, and thank you, Dan. I confirm we had this discussion and we believe we're not in conflict, so.
Okay, thank you. So we will make note of that. And when we get to item number 12, I think I'll probably throw it over to Alan Bromstein just to give us some guidance as we move into that item on the agenda. Thank you. Aaron.
Thank you. I have a conflict with item 7, governance review and moderation, motion number 1.
Thank you. And Nalan.
Thanks, Hannah. I also have a conflict with item number 7, motion 1, with the new governance bylaws.
Thank you. And those comments are all duly noted and will be addressed again when we reach those items on the agenda.
Hannah, I have a conflict with the item number 7 as well.
Thank you. Noted. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. As a governance best practice, we use the consent agenda as a time-saving mechanism. On the consent agenda are several items that are for Council's information, acceptance, and ratification. Council will be asked to approve these in a single motion. Council may ask clarifying questions about an item on the consent agenda. If members wish to have a conversation about an item, we will remove it from the consent agenda and address it later on in the meeting. I would ask that if you do this, that you use an incredibly high bar when asking to remove an item from the consent agenda. The consent agenda items are in your meeting materials from pages 17 to 227. So before I ask to have that motion entertained, I will ask if there are any questions or comments or changes about the consent agenda. Thank you. Seeing none, I would ask that motion number 1 be put on the screen. And motion number 1 reads that the following items from 1 to 8 be approved and or received for information by council. That is moved by Anthony Lisho, seconded by Mark Trudell. All those in favor, please raise your virtual hands. I have 21 in favor Oh,
Hanno, it's Rod. I'm having trouble finding my virtual. Just mark me as a positive vote.
okay. So then that is unanimously carried. Thank you very much. At this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Dan for the registrars and CEO report. Dan, please.
Thanks, Hanno. And you'll see I have some slides coming up, and I'll try to get us back on track. I know my report was scheduled to go till 11:20, so I will go through this. You have my written report in the package of materials. I'm not going to cover everything. I might make reference to something. Hopefully you've had a chance to read it. I often think about what themes are in my quarterly registrar's reports. And I think today, the theme that I'll mention off the top and come back to at the end is commitment. And if you can go to the next slide, please. First, I'll just reference very briefly, you have in the consent agenda the report on the strategic plan, and you can see that we always provide our key performance indicators for the 6 strategic projects that we have been undertaking over the last 3 years. And there have been significant and numerous achievements within each project that you see at various council meetings in a number of different forms, coming to you as items that you discuss, deliberate on, and approve. So again, you have all of that information. I won't go into it in any detail. Next slide. And you can go to the next slide. The other thing that I wanted to mention at the end of my registrar's report is the corporate dashboard. And that looks at the operational highlights. And as staff and as a leadership team, we've identified various metrics that we believe council should at least be aware of. They are very much focused on quantitative representation of timelines or numbers of activities that we're involved in. And we do at times retire some because they just become part of how we work and our operations. So again, I would ask you to take a look at that. But I'd also mention that the 2 dashboards that you have just been referenced, this is the result of a commitment of not just 140 staff people. Obviously, that is a huge commitment by our staff team, but also all of the committees and many others who work on behalf of the college's mandate. And that's really a testament to how the organization has come together to achieve in so many different ways. Next slide. I'm going to cover a couple of things now. I often try to bring you some work or initiatives that are happening in the environment. And for those who've been following the news over the last 3 months or so since our last council meeting, a couple of things have happened. First of all, I have mentioned before that the Ontario College of Pharmacists, OCP, had a self-initiated governance review, and the OCP had been experiencing some particular challenges with their governance that was quite public. And so with the initiative of the board, they did have an independent organization take a look at their governance structure. And that group came out with a report that is public that really looked at the what they called the hard wiring and the soft wiring of council. And I think the only point that I want to make, and obviously the organization will take a look at that and review it and figure out their implementation plan, is that no one is really immune to these reports. And this is why we focus on governance quite a bit with this council and the things that we have been doing, including what you'll look at today. I also want to point out that a very prominent story related to the Real Estate Council of Ontario. And just this week, after a 15-day notice period, the minister responsible from the Ontario government appointed a supervisor and essentially removed the CEO and the entire board of that regulatory body. And that was related to some issues in terms of activities around the oversight of real estate brokerages and agents, and one particular incident that involved the mismanagement of trust money. And so again, this is why we pay attention so much to the work that we do, the perceptions that are formed by the public, and also how we operate as a board, how you operate as a board, and how you continue to modernize and progress in terms of your activities. Next slide. I've mentioned as of right a number of times. There is a briefing note in the consent agenda. And really what I want to do is just let you know that there's significant progress that is being made on as of right. And for those who are new, this is the ability of anyone who is fully licensed in another province or territory to come to Ontario and practice for up to 6 months without receiving a certificate of registration from the respective college. So it means that they have to file an application and they have to provide an attestation around a number of different criteria, but they don't have to have a certificate, and they can then practice as an independent practitioner or as an employee or a practitioner with privileges in a hospital, for example. So there's a number of things that have happened over the last few months, including the expansion of this activity that would cover dentistry, because it didn't previously for the first 2 years. So there's new legislation. There are changes that have happened or will be happening very shortly to the Dentistry Act. There's a new regulation. They're trying to build consistency across all of the 18 or so colleges and professions that will be involved. There's been a lot of activity through our federation group with our registration department and with the Ministry of Health to really design some of the practices around application forms and attestation documents, as I've already referred to. There will be a Ministry of Health guidance document for applicants and employers. And the college is really trying to focus on what are the real risks and how can we mitigate them. One of the risks that we identified is that we will not necessarily be able to get a standing certificate from the jurisdiction in which the individual is arriving from. And this is something that we've pointed out for a number of months, and going back to the first 4 original colleges. The attestation document is meant to mitigate some of that risk by having the individual attest to their good standing. And I would say that in the Globe and Mail this morning, and some of you may have seen it, the very first article that I saw was called "Sexual Assault Allegations Against Doctor Spur Review of Cross-Province Licensing System." And I don't have all the facts. I've read one article, but it generally or essentially references Quebec, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick. And it is related to physicians and regulators, and how information didn't seem to move between at least 2 of those provinces. And so an individual who had sanctions applied in one jurisdiction was allowed to practice in another jurisdiction. And so again, these are not just abstract risks. These are things that can happen if we're not, if we're only looking at the credentials and the competencies of individuals. We're missing the conduct piece. And so again, as of right is a very important initiative that's going to remove barriers to mobility, but there are still some things that we want to, as regulators, assure the public of, that they will be safe in the hands of those practitioners. Next slide. I want to just cover briefly PLP. We have been, as you know, spending the last 3 months on the transition process. And so there is a lot of work happening around issues that relate to staff, data, IT, finance, and so on. A lot of the practical day-to-day transition work that needs to happen with this divestment. I'm very pleased to tell you that almost all staff are going to be employed by Navicord. And for those who aren't, it was more of a personal decision. And so, again, that has been a very great success that we've been able to, as we've said all along, transfer the staff who will continue to manage the claims and the files and the phone calls on behalf of Navicord. I also want to comment on communication. We have had an incredible communication strategy. We have dealt with a number of concerns from the profession, from the association and dental societies, and we've managed that by being out and speaking to various groups on a very regular basis. We've been very transparent about all sorts of aspects of the process, and we've had multiple meetings at this council in the public domain that have allowed for that information to be available. And if you want to read anything about the PLP divestment, we have a very extensive set of web pages that looks at frequently asked questions that just keeps growing. And last week, I hosted an RCDSO Connect meeting where we had over 700 dentists who joined, and we provided them with the full story of the divestment of PLP. And by all accounts, it appeared to be a very successful meeting with lots of practical questions that dentists had that we were able to answer in the moment. Next slide, please. I'm also really pleased to tell you that one of the, pieces of legislation, in this case, or regulation, that we needed for the transition has been approved by the government. So you'll recall that you approved in principle a draft regulation back in March. That went through a number of iterations of consultations by both us, the college, and also by the Ministry of Health. And when all was said and done, it was approved, signed, and filed just last week. So we now have a regulation that allows us to ensure that all dentists have professional liability coverage as a condition of their registration. And so there's a number of features to that regulation that assures us that the dentists cannot practice without PLP coverage, and that if they, for some reason, lose that coverage, which we don't anticipate, but if that were to happen, then they would be in an obligation to report that to the college and stop practicing immediately until they had new coverage, and then they would be reinstated in a very seamless manner. So regulations don't get approved by the government that often, and so we're really pleased that this one moved very quickly, and thanks to the ministry, because they did understand some of the time pressures that we were under as well. Next slide. I want to just comment, and I did write this in my written report as well, that we're very pleased to welcome Leanna Yu as our new Director of Professional Conduct and Regulatory Affairs, PCRA. Leanna started earlier this week on Monday, and I know that you'll have an opportunity to meet her as we move forward. And if you're on committees that are supported by the PCRA department, then you will obviously have a chance to meet with her maybe a bit sooner. I also want to thank Dana Simon and Sinead Early, who took responsibilities in the absence of a director and really helped to ensure that the team continued to move forward and cases continued to move forward, and really did an incredible job across the investigation, complaint, discipline, prosecution side, and monitoring side that was just almost seamless. So thank you very much to Dana and Sinead. Next slide. The annual renewal, as dentists on council will know, has been ongoing since October 15th. This is a quick visual of where we are in the process. And we have 5,619 dentists who have renewed already as of November 30th, so just earlier this week. This is about 47% of what we expected from the number of dentists who we expected would renew. And last year at the same time, it was about 44.6%. So we are on track. It ends on December 15th before penalties kick in, but we know that through our reminder systems, there's always a flurry after reminders go out, and there's always a flurry at the end with some stragglers, but we are on track, and I wanted council to be aware of that. Next slide. I want to speak briefly to engagement and transparency, and one of the concerns that we've heard, and I will speak to this later when we talk about the PLP bylaws, is that we haven't been transparent. And I know that you, council, are aware of all of the things that we do to make sure that we are really engaging the public, the profession, our interested partners, that we have so much information that's available. And on the screen, you can see on the left, we have our newsletter, RCDSO Connect. We're also branding those webinars as RCDSO Connect, where we talk about topical issues, and we get between 1,000 and close to 2,000 dentists who join those on a regular basis. And our standards are also quite visible, both in terms of the final product, but also the drafts that are available before they ever become close to final. Next slide. And I want to focus for a minute on RCDSO Connect. And so this is missing, this graph is missing the one session that I mentioned earlier, which was last week, and it was related to PLP. But you can see that the number of dentists that we are connecting with is almost 4,000. In fact, with the session last week of over 700, it's about 4,500 this year, who are unique individuals in that there are lots of repeats, but these are individual dentists that we're able to speak to about a variety of issues. And these issues range from our standards to gender-based violence and how dentists can be involved in really understanding intimate partner violence and gender-based violence in their care of patients, to the PLP explanation that we provided last week. And for many of those sessions, we provide a category 1 CE point. And so we've had a lot of individual dentists partake in that as well. So these have been largely successful for the college and for our ability to speak to dentists. And we also have a number of different ways that we speak to the public and engage the public in our consultations. Next slide. And if you just press that a couple times, Angelo, one more there, that's great. So I mentioned off the top commitment, and I really do believe that we have such an incredibly committed group of staff, counselors, and committee members. This is my last report of the year, and I really want to take this moment to thank everyone. I have such gratitude to everything that our staff team is committed to, and I really believe that they do this work and they enjoy this work because of our meaningful mandate. And they're dedicated to their roles. They're dedicated because every role is contributing to that mandate, and they're accountable for what they do. And so, again, my gratitude to you, my gratitude to the staff. I want to just, I guess, somewhat prematurely say happy holidays to everyone. And I'll close there, Hanno, and I went a little bit over, but I'm happy to take a couple of questions before we move on.
Thanks so much, Dan. We do have a couple of minutes if anyone has a question. Peter Deline.
Yeah, Dan, the question I had to do with the as of right article. I noticed there were a lot of professional kind of contraindications for people, individuals to, let's say, not be selected or not be able to work in the province. Should there also be some, what I would say, imagine if an individual had criminal or some kind of civil suit going on, should we make sure that things are clear that way as well?
Thanks, Peter. So I know what you're speaking of, and that's the attestation that we are expecting and will get from every applicant who's interested. And I was of the view that there is something that relates to criminal, maybe not civil, but criminal, but also attesting to the fact that the individual is in good standing. I will say that those criteria, some of them have been added since the government expanded the scope of as of right to a number of other health professions. And that's been because our federation and our individual colleges have really pushed for that risk mitigation. I will leave it open. Hillary Bauer from our registration area might want to also just say something about that with respect to your specific question, Peter. I will just, while Hillary's maybe getting ready, the other thing that's new in as of right is that we do have the ability to terminate that as of right status if we find something out while the individual is here but not yet licensed in the province. So that is also a new feature that we're pleased to see. Is Hillary available to maybe say a few words? Thanks, Hillary.
No problem. So thanks for the question. Just to clarify, the conditions for the exemption do not specifically speak to criminal conduct history. So it's not captured in the conditions for exemption. So it's conceivable that someone with a criminal history could potentially take advantage of the as of right provisions. With that said, practically speaking, the time period within which that someone will be able to take advantage of the as of right provisions is really only a matter of days in most instances, because they cannot commence to start practice as of right without submitting an application for registration. And in an application for registration, we ask questions about criminal conduct history. So we will quickly see who has applied, what the status of that information is, and we'll take steps to immediately, put into action, for example, a referral to a registration committee if it's appropriate. And once an application is refused by the college, they can no longer take advantage of the as of right provisions. So although it's not in the conditions for exemption, there are some steps we can take to mitigate that on our end with our processes.
Thanks for that, Hillary. Patrick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Daniel, excellent report. Just go back to the RICO situation briefly. Reports like that can be seen as a gift as well as a caution for all SROs. Based on your comments, I guess we can assume that staff is reviewing the Denton's recommendations and looking for any vulnerabilities, but at the college and opportunities.
Yeah, I can assure you that staff take all of these reports and we do read them, and we look at what, as much as we can glean about the issues, and we look at the recommendations. And if there are any vulnerabilities or if there's any way that we can improve something that's already working, we'll absolutely do that. Yes.
Thank you. Moving on, Council, to item number 7. This item concerns governance modernization, a project under the RCDSO's 2023 to 2025 strategic plan. In accordance with Council's direction, the Governance Committee has completed its development of plans to implement the reduction of elected council dentists from 12 to 10 members, move from a district-based to a province-wide election model, and introduce staggered terms for elected members of council. These components were approved in principle by Council on June 20th, 2024, alongside supporting operational design elements endorsed on June 19th, 2025. Today, Council is asked to consider bylaw amendments that will give effect to these proposed governance reforms. This item is for Council's decision. The relevant materials can be found on pages 228 to 433 of your meeting package. I'm now going to turn it over to Ann Coughlin, Chair of the Governance Committee, to present this item. And Ann, over to you, please. Oh, okay, yeah, sorry, I just saw a hand up, but it's down. Ann, over to you, please.
Thank you, Hanno, and good morning, Council. On behalf of the Governance Committee, I'm pleased to present the proposed bylaw amendments pertaining to governance modernization for your consideration and approval. This item is for Council's decision. To help us stay on schedule, please hold your questions until the end. We will have time for those afterwards. We have reached an exciting and pivotal moment in our governance journey. Today represents a major milestone for the Governance Review and Modernization Strategic Project and for strengthening the college's governance framework as a whole. The decisions made by Council, as outlined in the briefing note, are incorporated in the proposed changes to the college's bylaws. In September, Council received draft bylaw amendments along with a detailed comparison chart outlining the proposed changes and explanatory notes. We asked for your feedback, and we have incorporated it to ensure clarity and alignment. Today, your meeting package includes updated versions of the redlined bylaws, the compendium comparison chart, and a clean copy of the amended bylaws. These documents highlight only the articles subject to revision and remain fully aligned with the components and operational design elements previously approved by Council. Key amendments include term assignments for the 2026 transition year, reduction in elected council members, implementation of staggered terms, including extending the council terms of the 3 elected council members currently serving on the executive committee, management of vacancies during and beyond the transition period, enhancements to the candidate assessment process, election of the council president and vice president every 2 years as required by the Dentistry Act, and annual committee appointments. These amendments have been developed in consultation with legal counsel and do not require external consultation. Today, Council is asked to formally approve these amendments. Subject to Council's approval, staff will launch a comprehensive communications rollout designed to build awareness, foster engagement, and attract qualified candidates for the 2026 election. At the same time, the Governance Committee will continue its preparatory work to ensure the success of the inaugural province-wide election in 2026. Modernization is an iterative process. Governance changes will be evaluated at the end of the first cycle to ensure nothing has been lost. There will always be opportunities to improve and refine as we move forward. With that, I will now turn it back to Hanno to present the motions and take any questions Council may have.
Thank you very much, Anne. Before we proceed, I would ask that the three elected members of Council, Dr. Harinder Sandhu, Dr. Nalan Bhargava, Dr. Aaron Walker, who currently serve on the Executive Committee and who previously declared a conflict of interest, to please recuse themselves for this portion of the meeting. You will be moved into a breakout room for the duration of the motion and vote, and will be readmitted immediately following the vote to participate in the second decision. So I will just pause for 10 seconds while they are moved to a breakout room. Council, you see the motion in front of you that Council amend Bylaw 6 by adding Article 6.1.4 as follows to take effect March 30th, 2026, and 6.1.4 outlined for you.
Hanno?
Yes?
It's Dan. I still see Harinder. I'm not sure if he's having some trouble moving to another.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Thank you for that, Dan.
I'm not sure if IT or anyone can support that. Oh, I think it worked.
He's just gone off of my screen.
Okay, mine too. Thanks. Sorry about that, Hanno.
I'm going to ask just to make sure, because I only see a few people, like are Aaron and Noah also, Aaron and Nalan also off screen?
Yes, to confirm, all parties are now in the breakout room.
Thank you so much. So Council, the motion is in front of you. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to ask for someone to move that motion. Then I'm going to ask for someone to second it. Once it's formally tabled, we will then open up for questions and comments. So that motion is moved by Neil, seconded by Daniel Fortino. So at this point in time, I would ask all hands to go down. And this is going to be an opportunity, Council, for you to ask questions or make the comments that you feel. Neil, I see your hand is up, so I'm going to go to you first, please.
So my concern is this. We have 3 executive members who have left, were dismissed because of a potential conflict of interest. The rest of the council, including myself, are discussing and voting, number one, on things that concern potentially our future. And I see a perceived or potential conflict there. In addition, we know 3 of the members who are serving on the executive. And do we not have a perceived or real conflict in also making that decision? I don't know if legal has looked into this, but should it not be that all council members, elected members, have a conflict on this?
Thank you, Dan. Do you want me to turn it over to you, or do you want me to send it?
I just want to say a couple things, and then I'm not sure if it will be Alan or Amy Block who will be answering. I think, Neil, that first of all, I just want to be really clear that the motion here relates only to the staggered terms and the 3 elected members of council who would have an extension of their terms. So it's not the whole bylaw. Those 3 will come back when we're talking about the whole bylaw. The other thing that I would point out is there are some things that council needs to consider and make decisions upon, even when it might affect them. So one prime example is every year you approve fees, and that affects all the dentists as well. But the governance and the work of the governing body has to go on. So I see Alan's hand up, and I'll turn it over to him.
The simple answer, and it's a good question, the simple answer is no, the balance of council do not have a conflict of interest that would require them to absent themselves with regards to this matter.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I am seeing none. So council, again, I'm going to ask for your indulgence because this is the first time we are going to go to a roll call vote. So I'm going to explain the process to you, then I'm going to turn it over to Dan to actually conduct the roll count. So we will now proceed with the roll call vote on the motion that is before you, motion number 2. This motion requires a 2/3 majority or 16 votes. For clarity, Dan will call each member by name. When your name is called, please respond with in favor, opposed, or abstain. And during this voting process, please ensure that your microphone is on. Staff will record each response as it is given. Once all votes have been collected, Angie will announce the final results of the motion. And Dan, before I turn it over to you, I do have a question of clarification, because I know when we said 16 votes for 2/3 majority, that's based on 24 members. Since 3 of them are basically in the breakout room, then basically what we're looking at is 21 members will be voting. Is that correct?
That is correct. The denominator is 24 though. So on bylaw votes, those who declare a conflict and don't vote are still included in the denominator.
Okay, so 16 is still the number we're looking for. That's the magic
Yes.
number in terms of getting
and Alan wants to say something.
Thank you, Alan.
I just want to confirm you need 16 or more votes to pass this motion.
Thank you so much.
And
So
the record should reflect that Mr. Stableford is here. So there are 24 people in attendance.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, and thank you for that clarification, Alan. So Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you now, please, to begin the roll call.
Thanks, Hanno. And so as Hanno said, please respond in favor, opposed, or abstain. And Angie will be recording the votes, and she will be letting us know at the end then the numbers. So I'm going to start again in alphabetical order, and I will skip over the names of those who are in another waiting room. So starting with Patrick Ballantyne.
In favor.
Nalan Bhargava. Nalan, you're on mute.
He's in the waiting room, isn't he?
I'm so sorry. I was just going through it, Root. Thank you for that. Ram Chopra.
In favor.
Jamie Colliver.
In favor.
Peter Delane.
In favor.
Daniel Fortino.
In favor.
Neil Gajar.
In favor.
Noha Goma.
In favor.
Daniel Haas.
In favor.
Iliad Horner-Parver.
In favor.
Vivian Hu.
In favor.
Nizar Ledak.
In favor.
Anthony Lischio.
I'm in favor.
Anthony Mayer.
In favor.
Adele Simeoni.
In favor.
Brian Smith.
In favor.
Osama Solomon.
In favor.
Robin Somerville.
Opposed.
Rod Stableford.
In favor.
Mark Trudell.
In favor.
Judy Welikovich.
In favor.
And Deborah Wilson.
In favor.
Thank you. Angie?
There are 20 in favor and 1 opposed.
Thank you. So that motion carries. It has the required number of votes. Could I please ask that the 3 council members who are in the breakout room be readmitted to the meeting? And I will pause for a minute until they are back in before we bring up the next motion. And I'm just going to wait till someone can confirm that they are back in the meeting.
I handle. Yes, everyone's back.
Thank you so much, Angelo.
We are.
If I could have the next motion on the screen, please. Motion number 3. That council revoke bylaws 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9A, 14, and revoke appendix 28.3 of bylaw 28 to be replaced by bylaws 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9A, and 14 as set out in appendix C to take effect March 30th, 2026. So what I would be looking for is a mover for that motion, please. Moved by Nalan, seconded. Seconded by Harinder. Thank you. So that motion is on the table, and I now invite questions or comments before we proceed to the vote. And council, please remember to focus your questions, comments on the bylaw language or related bylaw issues, which is the focus of this motion.
I see Harinder's hand and Jamie's hand, Hanno.
Okay, thank you. Harinder, you're first, and then I'm going to go to Jamie, please.
I think Harinder's was a leftover.
Okay, Jamie?
Yep, thank you, Hanno. Would the language not be, sorry, I'm reading this, and should we not have amended bylaws as opposed to with bylaws or with amended bylaws? Because I see they're all the exact same numbers. I'm just wondering why there's no amended in the language. Thank you.
Can I turn that over to either Dan or to Anne?
Is Amy on the call?
Okay, perfect. Oh, is she? Are you asking?
Yes, I'm on the call and I'm happy to speak to that if you would like. In this instance, we're revoking the entire bylaw and replacing it with the bylaw that appears rather than specify the amendment within bylaw 1, within bylaw 2, within bylaw 6. So you have before you the existing bylaw that's been track changed, and then you have before you in Appendix C clean versions of the bylaw. So essentially we're removing bylaw 1 as it stands and then inserting the new bylaw 1 at Appendix C. I think you're correct in your understanding of what's occurring, but we thought this language best reflected what we're doing in this case, since the amendments are so significant, to itemize how each specific article was amended and ask you to make a motion in that manner seemed unduly cumbersome.
All right, thank you. Yeah, that helps. Thanks.
I am not seeing any other hands that are raised. So Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you again, please, to do the roll call vote. And we will follow the same process that we followed in the previous motion. So Dan, over to you, please.
I know.
Okay.
Alan's name.
Yeah, let's have a mover and a seconder, please.
I think there was.
We did have a mover and a seconder.
Okay,
Yes.
that's fine then. Thank you.
I think it was Harinder and Nalan. I'm not sure if
Yes.
that's the order.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Well, Nalan and Harinder.
Okay. Thank you.
My apologies.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. Thank you. So we do
Okay.
have a mover and a seconder. We're going to follow the same process as before. And this also requires a 2/3 majority vote. So again, the magic number in terms of moving this forward is 16. So Dan, I'm turning it over to you again, please.
Thanks, Hanno. Patrick Ballantyne.
In support.
Nalan Bhargava.
In support.
Ram Chopra.
In favor.
Jamie Colliver.
In favor.
Peter Delane.
In favor.
Daniel Fortino.
In favor.
Neil Gajar.
In favor.
Noha Goma.
In favor.
Daniel Haas.
In favor.
Iliad Horner-Parver.
In favor.
Vivian Hu.
In favor.
Nizar Ladak.
In favor.
Anthony Licio.
In favor.
Anthony Mayer.
In favor.
Harinder Sandhu.
In favor.
Adele Simeoni.
In favor.
Brian Smith.
In favor.
Usama Solomon.
In favor.
Robin Somerville.
Opposed.
Rod Stapleforth.
In favor.
Mark Trudell.
In favor.
Aaron Walker.
In favor.
Judy Welakovich.
In favor.
Deborah Wilson.
In favor.
Thank you.
We have 23 in favor and 1 opposed.
Thank you. So that motion carries as well. Thank you all. At this point in time, I believe our president has a few words to add. So Harinder, I'm going to turn it over to you before we continue on with the rest of the agenda. Harinder, are you muted?
Yeah, I'm 1 second.
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Hanno. I would like to thank you, Council, for your thoughtful deliberation on this matter. This is an important decision for the college and the public we serve. Now that Council has reached its decision, it is essential that we move forward, speaking with one voice. Unity in our message reinforces confidence in our governance and demonstrates our collective commitment to the public interest. Thank you again, Council, for your dedication and collaboration. Hanno, back to you.
Thanks, Harinder. Item number 8 on your agenda is the finance, the budget. As we do at every December council meeting, we have key fiscal matters to review and discuss today. We will begin with the operating and capital budgets for 2026. Every year, staff develops a budget that includes both operating and capital components. This is an item for your decision. The materials can be found on pages 434 to 450 of your meeting package. I'm going to begin by asking Mark Trudell, who's chair of the Finance, Audit, and Risk Committees, to make a few opening comments, and then he will turn it over to Jeff, who will walk council through these materials. So, Mark, I'm turning it over to you first, please.
Thanks, Hanno. Good morning, members of council. I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge and thank the members of the Finance, Audit, and Risk Committee, FAR, for their continued dedication, their hard work, and their thoughtful advice. Those members are Harinder Sandhu, Peter Delane, Neil Gajar, Jamie Colliver, Miriam Peshishki, and Neil Silver. Thank you, members of the FAR committee. I'd also like to thank the members of the college, the management team, and in particular, Kelly Tripp and Jeff Goldberg. That have prepared both what I'd characterize as a prudent and very, very responsible budget for 2026. The budget-related information package that they've prepared includes 1, a promised investment in strategic projects that form part of the strategic plan. 2, a multi-year forecast that reflects modest surpluses. And 3, details on the financial impact of the PLP divestment. So 3 main components to the package you've received today. So we at the FAR committee, we undertook a very detailed review of this budget for 2026, and we are recommending unanimously to council an operating budget that reflects both a surplus of approximately $595,000 and a capital budget that amounts to about $724,000. So at this point, Jeff Goldberg, our CFO, will present the highlights of that proposed budget as documented in your materials, following which we can take, we'd be pleased to take questions from council. Back to you, Hanno.
Thank you. And I think I'm just going to throw it right back over to Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Hanno, and thanks, Mark. So if we could just go back to the first slide. So as Mark mentioned, the material starts on page 434. We've included several appendices to accompany the briefing note, including the operating budget schedules, the capital budget, the multi-year forecast, and funding of strategic projects. So today we're going to walk through the highlights of each of these. So next slide, please. So as Mark mentioned, we are pleased to present an operating budget surplus of $595,000 for 2026. We have ensured we have the funding to meet the college's regulatory mandate, the operational projects, and plan for strategic initiatives. Now, there's a requirement in the College Performance Management Framework, or the CPMF, which states we must demonstrate how we're supporting our strategic projects. And although CPMF has taken a break in reporting, we continue to report to council on the investments in our strategic projects. And that's included on page 446 of your package. The college is also presenting a capital budget for major projects and one-time investments, and that's $724,000. And we're going to review how removing PLP has impacted the budget, and we'll discuss a little bit about long-term forecasting. Next slide, please. So each year we develop principles to guide the budget process. So these budget principles were presented to FAR in May before the process commenced, and were communicated to budget holders and asked to incorporate these or use these when they were developing their budgets. So today, the budget we're presenting today is consistent with these 5 principles. Next slide, please. So like most companies, we're operating in a complex external environment, geopolitical tensions, cyber threats, and regulatory changes are only a few of the factors that pose risk for us. And although monetary policy has worked to reduce price pressures in the Canadian economy, and inflation is just over 2%, economic policy shifts in both the US and Canada could dramatically impact inflation and market stability. So we've tried to factor these risks and accommodate them in our budget planning and reserve strategy going forward. Next slide, please. So if you extended this chart out to the left, you would see from 2017 to 2022, we had 6 straight years of deficit budgets or deficit results. The college is now able to forecast budgets close to a balanced approach, which is appropriate for a not-for-profit organization. And 23 and 24 stand out, but that was deliberate. We deliberately planned in those 2 years to generate surpluses to fund the operating reserve, to reduce the risk of PLP volatility, and to move away from continuing benefits, which was not sustainable in the long term. So we'll touch back on the forecast later in the slides, but these are very positive indicators for the college. Next slide. So the college is in a healthy financial position, and we continue to plan for the future. So, we've done a lot to move risks off the balance sheet. We annuitized the defined benefit pension plan, and that was removed from the financials in 2023. Divesting PLP will eliminate the 25 million plus liability and the underfunded PLP reserve from our books. And we have met the minimum requirements for the operating reserve. So a lot of really positive news there. We continue to manage risks. It's important that we staff appropriately so we don't experience a repeat of some of the backlog we had in complaints several years ago, and that we allocate resources where they're needed most. And it is difficult to plan for disruption, but a surplus allows us to fund opportunities or issues not budgeted that arise during the year. And we continue to plan for the future. We're looking at options for our real estate. We create several forecasting models based on different assumptions to highlight any risk areas throughout the year. And we'll review fees and reserves post-investment once we have a better idea of the final impact of the transactions. Next slide, please. So real estate discussions continue, but there's been no recommendation made to council for any change we may want to consider. So the financial impacts have not been included in the budget. It's status quo that we are operating the building, we're staying here. The second piece is the PLP divestment. So the financial parameters around the divestment are still unknown at this point. Some are known, but not all of them. So the budget does not include what an anticipated gain could be. We do know the transition will extend into at least Q1 of 2026 and maybe Q2, and we've set aside some dollars to support the transition activities. Next slide, please. So this demonstrates the impact on the revenue and expenses removed from our budget by PLP moving over to Navicord. On the revenue side, we've always associated the PLP program accounting for $1,000 of the fee. So on a budget of 11,800 dentists, that equates to 11.8 million. Deductibles will be moving over, and you can see the totals around 12.2 in revenue. On the expense side, the loss provision will disappear for the college of 7.5 was the budget. And the salaries for PLP staff in the departmental expenses for that group will also be removed from the budget. There's some other operating expense examples that we've just listed a few of the larger ones. The credit card fees will go down for us, and the offsite storage of physical files will move over to Navicord. So we are reducing more than $1 million in net proceeds from our budget and still maintaining a surplus. So we think this is good news, and we will still see PLP referenced in our balance sheet. Both the liability and the reserve will be there in 2026 until the actual transactions are finalized later next year. Next slide, please. So revenue is 33.3 million. Now that's down 25%. Of course, the largest driver is the reduction in PLP revenue, which we just reviewed. We have suspended the CPI increase for 2026, foregoing $650,000 in revenue to help mitigate the costs of the liability increase. You can see in the right-hand corner, membership continues to grow. And for the regulatory program fees, in aggregate, these have increased by $400,000. So that's sedation, CT scanning, and HPCs, or health professional corporations. On the investment side, income side, we've budgeted close to the 2025 budget at a level we feel is achievable. We will have to invest next year once after the transaction closes. And investment income can be a risky revenue stream. and that's reviewed regularly by FAR and is a major determinant of where we end up at year end, as we've seen in the past. Next slide, please. On the expense side, we're at 32.7 million, down 22%. You can see the primary drivers. We'll talk about staff in a moment. The PLP program, of course, we again just reviewed, and that took out a lot of the expenses. Consulting and legal fees also are going down this year by 560,000. That's due to the divestment entirely. We had to bring on a number of experts to move that program through, and we won't have anywhere near that investment next year. You can see the two charts on the right. So you can see the PLPs referenced in the orange. So in 2025, this year, it was essentially 50% for the program side and 25% infrastructure, 25% PLP. Going forward, you can see our slices of the pies are now about 2/3 for programs and 1/3 for infrastructure. And we're going to move ahead to the workforce on the next slide. So turnover is currently at a very reasonable rate. Some movement is always healthy in staff turnover, but once you approach 10%, it can start to get concerning, because replacing staff can be an expensive undertaking and can sometimes cost up to 1.5 times the salary. Now, one of the prime reasons we're able to retain talent is our flexible work model, which we consider to be a competitive advantage, as we know some other employers are bringing that back and mandating them back to the office. And our productivity remains very high in our current model. Now, salaries are now represent 62% of the college's operating expenses, and staff are number one asset. Next slide, please. So we just wanted to show some of the salary movements. Year-over-year salaries are reducing by 1.1 million. And there's three main buckets that explain this change. One, each year we provide merit based on performance. So staff increases are required to retain skilled staff, while we combat external factors in the employment market. Two, FTEs means full-time equivalents. So what this is saying is essentially we're hiring 5 new staff in data, IT, and 3 in the regulatory side. And you can see the last bucket of PLP, there was 21 staff budgeted for last year at 2.2 million, so that's coming out. So the sum of those 3 account for the reduction in salaries. Next slide, please. So getting back to the forecast, the multi-year forecast and the assumptions used are on page 448 of your package in Appendix D. So we expect this year to end in a deficit position, which is entirely due to the divestment. And we are estimating a $1 million deficit for 2025. Now, this is partially offset by the positive investment returns, which are keeping the deficit at a very modest level. You can see subsequent years reflect small surplus results, and for not-for-profit organizations, again, preparing a balanced budget is very prudent. However, we need to manage these funds closely so we don't have a repeat of past events when we had 6 straight years of deficits. But this is a good news forecast. Next slide, please. So turning to reserves, earlier this year, the operating reserve was funded based on a minimum of 3 months of expenses. So we may want to eventually set aside more based on our auditor recommendations. But right now we are compliant with the requirement by CPMF and compliant with the college's policy. So the operating reserve is funded at $7.5 million. Based on the 2026 budget, it would be $7.7 million. And the forecast for 27 is $7.8 million. So you can see we'll just need small adjustments to maintain the minimum 25% funding level. So in 2026, we'll also redraft our reserves policy and come to council with a new written policy, because the current one mandates two reserves, the operating reserve and the PLP reserve. Now, the PLP reserve will no longer exist once the transactions are finalized later next year. And we may want to consider other strategic reserves based on need and available funds. And this is a good way to stabilize long-term sustainability. Okay, sort of wrapping up with the capital budget. This is on page 447 of your package. So we do invest in technology each year to improve efficiency and automate processes. And that includes the Bridge, our case management system. We continue to move away from custom-built applications to off-the-shelf solutions, which has really reduced our development costs significantly over the past couple of years. We also have an evergreen program to replace a portion of obsolete equipment each year rather than all at once. And we're managing the investment in the building until we have a go-forward strategy on office space and not investing in major improvements, but only funding those that relate to safety or compliance. So next slide. I think Mark Kelly and I will be happy to field any questions, but I'll turn it back to Hanno at this point.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Council, at this point in time, I am going to look around to see if anyone has a question for. Okay, I see a few. Anthony Mayer, you're first, please.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Jeff, my question is about the slide related to PLP expense and revenue. It would seem to show that the PLP was declaring a minor kind of profit at the rate of $1,000 per member, on the order of about $1 million. Am I accurate there? It's the slide where you had $11.8 million at the top.
Yeah, so based on some of the budgeted numbers, but as we saw in the past, the volatility of the PLP loss provision, and it was really, some years it was extraordinarily high. So taking out that volatility is still positive. That doesn't include all the costs, right? There's lots of indirect costs. There's lots of other costs. We provided credit card fees and physical boxes, but there's many, many other fees and expenses related to PLP that we didn't list.
Right. Oh, okay. So I find the slide maybe a bit confusing or misdirecting, because the conventional wisdom that we've heard on council is always that the costs of running that program is somewhat being supported by the regular fees, in that it was costing more than the $1,000 attributed to it. But on your slide, it appears as if it's actually making money, at least in that 1 year. So it's a little confusing to me.
Thanks, Anthony. Dan, is your hand up to respond to this?
You just add a little bit of flavor to it. And I think, Anthony, your point's well taken in terms of how that might be seen to be different from some of what council has heard. There are, as Jeff said, other costs that aren't tracked necessarily to the department, whether that be like the human resource costs of recruitment and retention or IT support and so on. And what I have said many times, which is true, is the college has over the years provided support to PLP because it has been underfunded. And if you go back to some of those years that we had deficits, we do have lots of data to support the fact that the cost of, or the amount we were collecting for PLP was lower than the actual cost of the program, including direct costs. But we have made steps over the last 3 years to try to rectify that. So I think coupled with what we've just described in terms of not all costs are here, I just wanted to address your question about what council has heard.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Karen?
Yes, thank you for the presentation and for laying everything out so clearly. This is an area that often we get asked about at component society meetings, and in general, we field probably the occasional question. So I was wondering, like, whether rather than getting into specific questions now, I was wondering if it might be of merit, maybe in the spring, in February or March, to hold a session specifically where these things could be, where we could dive into them in a little bit more detail, to lay everything out and answer frequently asked questions. Because, you know, as council members, we've seen these budgets for a few years. We've seen all the information on PLP and all of the other projects that flow into this. So I think we have a bit of understanding of what's going where, but somebody seeing this maybe for the first time, particularly this year with the changes that we've just made, may benefit from a little bit more discussion.
Thanks for that suggestion, Aaron. Brian Smith?
Thank you. I just want to take a quick comment, or make a quick comment to, and express my appreciation and thanks to Jeff, Mark, and the members of the FAR committee, and they're to say that we're going through a lot of change, have gone and will go on in the future. It's been well thought out, well presented, and I just want to thank everyone very much for their efforts. Well done.
Thanks, Brian. Iliad?
Yes, I kind of agree with Aaron. I feel like it would be really beneficial in terms of transparency to have more information in terms of the budget, especially for some of the values that have a huge discrepancy. I'm just looking at like executive committee, there seemed to be almost a 300% increase. I'm just wondering why that discrepancy is there. So that would be good to just have a little bit more information about those big numbers changes at least. Thank you.
Thank you, Iliad. Judy?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I wanted to echo Brian's comments. This is a really good presentation and very detailed, very easy to follow. I have one question that might seem a little picky, and I know it's not a material number, but I'm just wondering whether under the expense budget, under third line down, this is page 440 of the package, insurance and brokerage. I'm just wondering how it is we're able to, I'm not even sure what insurance is. I'm assuming that's insurance and brokerage for the college. So how are we able to have that number? Is our level of insurance going down?
No, I think what the big difference there is every year we have a policy for PLP. So if any claims go over 10 million, we have this backstop, and that expense, that policy is very expensive. It's in the hundreds of thousands.
Okay, I see. Okay,
So
yeah, I was
that
just
would
wondering
be-
about so that's not D&O.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have Harinder and then Mark. Harinder?
Thanks, Hanno. I just want to congratulate Jeff and his team for financial stewardness and having this surplus budget and mending these finances. I just have a suggestion, going back to Neil Mayer's question. If we can, on that slide, put an asterisk mark where there's a little bit of discrepancy. mentioning that there are certain costs which have not been fully allocated, and that's why that is the discrepancy. I think optics are really important. So if that can be done, that will be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mark Trudell.
Thanks, Hanno. Members of council, thanks so much for your attention and for the feedback you've provided. Aaron Elliott duly noted. It's an excellent suggestion. We at FAR will take that back and work towards preparing with staff, shall we say, a compendium, so clear communication to the membership as a whole, a professional membership. And that communication will certainly reflect, Anthony will reflect the point you made about just clarifying that one element. So again, much gratitude to members of council and for the feedback provided. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. So if I could ask to have motion number 4 on the screen now, please, for council's consideration. And motion number 4 is that council approve the 2026 operating and capital budgets as presented. That is moved by Anthony Lisho, seconded by Deborah. Before we go to the roll call, I'm just going to, so everyone put your hand down now, please. I will pause one last time to make sure that no one has any other questions that need to be answered or any other clarifications that need to be made prior to going to the roll call, rather the roll call for the vote. Dan, I'm seeing none, so could you please begin the roll call?
Okay, so just to recall, it's in favor, opposed, or abstain. So I'll start with Patrick Ballantyne.
In favor.
Nalam Bhargava.
In favor.
Ram Chopra.
In favor.
Jamie Colliver.
In favor.
Peter Delane.
In favor.
Daniel Fortino.
In favor.
Neil Gajar.
In favor.
Noha Goma.
In favor.
Daniel Haas.
In favor.
Iliad Horner-Parver.
In favor.
Vivian Hu.
In favor.
Nizar Ladak.
In favor.
Anthony Licio.
In favor.
Anthony Mayer.
In favor.
Harinder Sandhu.
In favor.
Adele Simeoni.
In favor.
Brian Smith.
In favor.
Osama Solomon.
In favor.
Robin Somerville.
In favor.
Rod Stapleforth.
In favor.
Mark Trudell.
In favor.
Aaron Walker.
In favor.
Judy Welakovich.
In favor.
And Deborah Wilson.
In favor.
Thank you. Back to you, Hanno and Angie.
We have 24 in favor.
Thank you. So that motion carries unanimously. Council, the next item on the agenda, item number 9, is risk management. The college has a formal enterprise risk management framework, which is before you today. Awareness and understanding of significant and serious risks to the college is an important part of council's oversight role. The item for this council, for your information, is the materials can be found on pages 451 to 459 of your package. I'm going to turn it over again to Jeff, who will provide a presentation on risk management. And so take it over, please, Jeff.
Thank you, Hanno. I just want to make a comment on the budget. So, I get lots of credit, but it is a team effort. It starts with all the departmental leaders in the college putting forward responsible budgets. SLT is heavily involved. And then, of course, Kelly Tripp and Alice Menn put it all together. So there's a cast of thousands putting the budget together. So moving on to risk management. So we continue to enhance our process year after year. And again, this is for information, not for any decision. But I'm going to briefly touch on the framework and some of the tools we've developed. And then we'll look at the top risks and how they were identified this year. Next slide, please. So risk management is really about managing the risks that could impact the college in achieving our objectives. So ERM, or Enterprise Risk Management Program, is intended to provide a structured, consistent, and continuous process for the proactive identification of risks, material risks for foreign counseling. So the diagram on the slide is a standard process for ERM, where we identify and describe risks, then we analyze the scope, and then you evaluate the risks, and we score those by analyzing the impact and likelihood of the occurrence. And we have backup sheets of how we are able to score those. Then you assign an owner to mitigate the risk or come up with a plan on how it's going to be mitigated, and then monitor and continually check the status of the risks. So we'll move to the next slide, please. So risk is not new to the college, and we're always managing risk. So even before you put together a more formal framework, it's always top of mind for risk for staff. So these are just a few examples, just scratching the surface of some of the tools we use. So HR policies are a standard tool to manage people risks. Cybersecurity is critical, and we have a strong framework and have external audits of our systems undertaken. We have a comprehensive insurance program that covers the college for many different types of risks. And we have a crisis management playbook now that's been developed used in the case of an emergency situation. So just touching on a few of these, it's always top of mind for staff when they're looking at different initiatives and programs. Next slide, please. So this is the roadmap we followed to develop a risk framework. So Rob Quayle, who's our risk consultant, took council through a risk appetite exercise in 2023. And then from that point, we used that as a starting point and developed the other pieces of the framework with oversight by FAR to get to the current state with a cadence of reporting to council twice a year. So I'm just going to look at the next slide. Details the categories. So based on research of health and regulatory organizations, we looked at our risk sectors of regulatory, governance, and infrastructure, and used those to develop our 5 risk categories. So using risk categories helps separate risks into different buckets and makes it so much more manageable when going through the identification of risks. Next slide, please. So there's a lot of information on this slide, but a risk universe is a fundamental document in the risk management process and really is an inventory of potential risks that the college might face. So you can see it's broken into 5 slices, reflecting the 5 categories referenced in the previous slide. And in simple terms, a risk universe is a structured way of thinking about all the potential risks that could impact the college and is there to help ensure that no stone is left unturned when it comes to understanding what could go wrong and helps us to be better prepared for when these do, or when they happen, or if they happen. So the next slide talks about the risk identification for this year. So twice a year, departments update their risk registers and identify mitigation strategies. So IT in particular, IT has 2 risk registers, one organizationally and one specifically for security, which is very technical. But excluding the security risk, we have documented 119 risks. You can see on the pie chart the number in each area that we identified. Then we score those and we look at mitigation for each of those. This year we had a bit of a different process with our SLT team. So we used our risk consultant to have one-on-one interviews with each member of SLT And then we came together to be able to come to agreement on the top organizational risks for 2026. We used that list from SLT. We verified it with the department registers to ensure they were consistent and that there is no missing a high risk from the SLT list. And SLT also identified some second tier risks, which have very strong controls, but high inherent risk. And they're described in the BN of unacceptable backlogs in cases and complaints, unfavorable government policy, or the risk of failure to yield expected benefits from investments in technology. So these need to be monitored closely to ensure they continue to be well managed and that the residual risk remains low. So the next slide, we'll talk about top risk for 2026 that SLT came up with. So just a reminder, these are the highest rated risks. We don't want to present 119 risks to council. So these are the ones that you need to be aware of, and they are not in any sort of rank order. So 3 risks related to PLP were removed from the top risk report from 2025 as the divestment to Navicord is imminent, essentially within a month, which will remove those risks for the college. Now we have added in place of those, we've added 2 new risks for 2026. One, a high profile incident such as an IPAC breach can impact public trust and could, one thing that could happen is the government could provide a solution that doesn't address the underlying issue. The other one that's new is the inadequate data quality and access, which is probably a risk for any organization. So internal data gaps can impact effective analysis, and AI can probably complicate this, but we do have strong guardrails around AI, and an updated data strategy will help mitigate this risk further. Then disreputable comments and misinformation is the third one on this list. Unfortunately, the college has seen several examples of this behavior and continues to manage on a case-by-case basis. And this is also identified in the, there's a chart in the BN about global risks. This is identified as the top global risk in the short term. So we're not alone in having this as a high rated risk. On the next slide, we have 2 risks that were identified last year and continue to be a focus for the college. Gaps in dental practice that are not addressed by college standards, such as new technologies, has been assessed as high. You can see several mitigation strategies are in place, including the issuance of recently of a standard on AI. And for the second one, although much progress is being made on standards, and council has seen the quality of the work, the policy department. Several are still out of date, which is why we added resources a couple of years ago to move through this more quickly and really identify it as a priority for the college. The next slide identifies cyber and privacy, which will likely always be on this list. Although we have many, many controls in privacy, and we have all sorts of systems and checks in IT security, all it takes is one breach, and the result can be really dramatic. So we just need to stay diligent and continue to manage these closely. So that's the list of high risks for the college that we've identified. On the next page, we just have some next steps. Each year we do make enhancements to the program and extend it into other areas of the college. So, for example, this year we built our crisis management playbook based on our risk program. And we also create a third-party risk document, present to FAR, which identifies the risk of IT vendors. How we ensure they are secure and alternates in case they need to make a quick switch. So each year we're extending the risk out, and it's all part of the risk program for us. So we'll launch the process for 2026 in the new year and look at what improvements can be incorporated, including we need to document some of the process and continue mitigation in reporting. And those are my comments.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We can take a few minutes if anyone has a question for Jeff. Jamie?
Yes, thanks, Hanno. And thanks, Jeff. I think it would benefit council if you wouldn't mind describing, I'm a member of the FAR, of the measurement of these risks, i.e. in the color-coded system on the charts that we see. Maybe explain to people, explain to council how the risks move from various levels of concern and when they completely disappear. You know, every system like this requires measurement, and I'm just wondering if you could take a couple of minutes and explain your measurement framework. Thank you.
Sure. So yeah, we didn't include that in the slide deck, but we have two measures on which we score risks. So we have the likelihood, and we have a 5-point scale from almost never going to happen to it's imminent. And we score the risk based on that. And then we have a detailed chart, again, a 5-point scale of an inconsequential impact to the college to a very severe and almost unrecoverable situation. So based on those two, they'll each get a score out of 5. So we have a risk map, and based on if it's a 1-1, it's going to be very low. So 5-5, that's the top. So we take the product of those two, and anything that's above 20 is a high risk, which comes to this table. And below that, we have medium and we have low. And for each of those, we assess each year. And based on the mitigation strategies and what's been incorporated, they may move. Hopefully, they would move lower. So a high risk may move to a medium, or a medium may move to a low. We haven't taken too many off the list. We still think even with the low risk, there's some further mitigation, and it helps develop when we're developing work plans for departments as well.
Thank you, Jeff. There are no other questions, and in light of the time, Council, I'm going to recommend that item number 10, which is professional liability coverage bylaw, be moved to after the breaks. We will begin our break now, and I would ask your cooperation in being back by 1:10 and ready to start the meeting again at 1:10. So we will take a half-hour break, be ready to reconvene at 1:10, please, and we will then begin with item number 10 on the agenda. And during the break, just please mute yourselves and turn off your video. Thank you very much. Okay, most people are back. So, Council, we will start with item number 10 on the agenda. And this item relates to the divestment of the Professional Liability Program, the PLP. On September 15th, the Council announced that the PLP will be divested to Navicord Jones Delorier, with the transfer to take effect January 1st, 2026. Enshrining minimum requirements in the RCDSO's bylaws is required to ensure that dentists do not practice without professional liability protection once the professional liability program is divested. And I'm going to turn it over to Dan, who's going to walk Council through the notes.
Thanks, Hanno. I just want to point out a few contextual items just to remind council of this particular bylaw. This is really one of several instruments that allows the college to implement the divestment of PLP. And I want to just take you back to the actual Health Professions Procedural Code that authorizes the college to make these decisions. And it says that the college, and I'm paraphrasing a little, the college may make bylaws requiring members to have professional liability insurance that satisfies the requirements specified in the bylaws, and requiring members to give proof of the insurance to the registrar in the manner set out. So this is not something that we have instituted without the proper authority. And then there's a few other instruments that are actually working together. So you'll recall the PLP regulation that I mentioned this morning. That's in place to ensure that all dentists have coverage, and it would work very closely in an integrated way with this bylaw. Making sure that coverage is adequate for all dentists, that's also a part of this bylaw. And then making sure that we can manage those instances where dentists don't have coverage or where they reinstate it, they can get back into practice very quickly. That's in the regulations as well. So really all of those different parts are working together. And I did mention earlier that the regulation has been approved. You also approved bylaws in September that related to the fee. So that is a part of it. And I just want to point out a couple of places where the bylaws in front of you today are trying to address the specific details for dentists. So it's basically saying that all classes of certificates will have to hold liability coverage. It's talking about the years 2026, 2027, and 2028 to make sure that dentists, they might access this insurance in a little bit of a different way, but it does outline for those 3 years of stability how dentists will receive their insurance and report it to the college. And then in 2029, where you know that that's when dentists will have the option to choose their provider. And if they want to stay with Navicord, they can stay with Navicord. But that's going to have some other bylaws likely that will have to be looked at as we approach 2029. But right now, because it would be a bit complex to try to predict 3 years out or 4 years out, that we wanted to just make sure that we covered the next 3 years. It also goes into minimum requirements. So the 2 million per occurrence and 6 million in aggregate, and the coverage has to cover the full scope of dental practice. So all of those things are what have been articulated in the bylaw. And you'll recall that this was approved in principle by council in September, and it went out for circulation as we're required to do for bylaws for 60 days. I want to make a quick comment about circulation, and I know that I've heard that we approach this in a different way from a consultation on our standards. And we do this intentionally because consultation on standards is really trying to gather lots of subjective opinions about a standard. They're not yes and no questions, and we're really trying to understand what the profession thinks, whether it's a position or a standard. Whereas a circulation of a bylaw often is coming from a decision that's already been made, and the bylaw is there to support that decision. So it's not as simple as saying yes or no, because the decision has been made. That's the direction. And so we do circulate and we will take feedback, but we don't create the surveys necessarily for the circulation of bylaws, which not always, but almost always are operational, whereas standards are not. They're about practice. So just a bit of a differentiation in terms of why we approach it a bit differently. And so I want to just comment briefly, and then I'll turn it over to you, Hanno. We heard from, in the note, it says 35 responses at our deadline of November 21st. And since November 21st, right up to yesterday, we've had 8 more. So we had about 43 responses to this bylaw. I would say that one of them was from the Ontario Dental Association, and it was a letter that described some of their concerns, which I'll mention in a moment. They're all in the briefing note, but I'll just go over them. And the others were largely templates that were reiterating the concerns that had been expressed by the ODA. So it wasn't additional concerns. They were really all consistent across those 43 responses. And just to give you a relative understanding of that response rate, we've been consulting on the implant standard, and we've had, as of today, over 450 responses. So that's one. That one has been a bit more, controversial, I suppose, to some. Lots of responses, great feedback coming back, and also when we went out to the profession in fall of 2023, and we really didn't know how we would move forward necessarily on PLP, and we wanted opinions on what the profession valued. We got 1,600 responses. So I just wanted to give you that that comparison in terms of the responses that we get across different items. So some of what you, all of what you have in the briefing note is really a reflection of the concerns that have been expressed. I say it boils down to things like transparency, and we tried to provide, and I talked this morning about the ways in which we've been transparent related program. Any dentist can ask us for their policy coverage, and they will get that. We've provided that in the current form, and we will continue to do so in the future form. Concern about standards, service standards. And we also are quite confident that by transferring over the staff who are doing the work here for the college, when they go to Navicord, the service standards should be the same, if not better. So all of that has been considered. And also there was concern with the that stability period of 3 years. And we've described the rationale for that in the briefing materials as well. And then a couple of other areas that we will obviously, that are a little bit more detailed and they're not related to the bylaw, that we will continue to work with the ODA and provide that feedback. So the recommendation here is that the bylaw would move forward for your consideration unchanged. There was nothing that was provided that suggested we needed to provide any alternative language. And I'm going to turn it back over to you, Hanno, and you can facilitate the discussion and the motion on this.
Thank you, Dan. And council, just also to let you know, Margot Orchard is also, I can see her face on my screen now, so she's also available should there be questions for either Dan or for Margot. So at this point in time, I will look out to see if any members on council have a question before calling up the motion. Okay, so I'm seeing none, so I am going to ask that the next motion be put on the screen, please. And this is motion number 5, that council approve the amendments to bylaw 22, professional liability and indemnification, to revoke Article 22.1 and to substitute those provisions shown in Appendix A, with the understanding that if finally approved by council, the amendment would be effective January 1st, 2026 at 12:01 a.m. conditional upon the completion of the sale of the professional liability program. That is moved by Anthony Lisho and seconded by Ram. At this point in time, I'm going to ask everyone to put their hands down again. And before turning to Dan to do the roll call, I will give council again another opportunity should there be a question. Okay, Dan, I'm seeing nothing, so I'm going to turn it over to you, please, to do the roll call.
Thanks, Hanno. Patrick Ballantyne.
In favor.
Nalan Bhargava.
In favor.
Ram Chopra.
In favor.
Jamie Colliver.
In favor.
Peter Delane.
In favor.
Daniel Fortino.
In favor.
Neil Gajar.
In favor.
Noha Goma.
In favor?
Daniel Haas.
In
I'm gonna
favor.
let you go. Okay.
Somebody's
in favor. Someone else.
Yes, thank you.
microphone.
Rod, I think you want to mute. Iliad Horner Parvar.
In favor.
Just hang on a sec.
Vivian Hu.
In favor.
Nizar Ladak.
In favor.
Anthony Lischio.
In favor.
Anthony Mayer.
In favor.
Harinder Sandhu.
In favor.
Adele Simeoni.
In favor?
Brian Smith,
In favor.
Just give me a second.
Osama Solomon,
In favor.
Robin Somerville,
In favor.
Rod Stapleforth,
In favor. Yeah.
Mark Trudell,
In favor.
Aaron Walker,
In favor.
Judy Welakovich,
In favor.
Deborah Wilson.
In favor.
Thanks. Back to you, Hanno.
Thank you. And that motion carried unanimously. So the next item on the agenda is item number 11, which is the RCDSO Vision. The RCDSO Vision 2035, once finalized, will direct and influence the development of the RCDSO's next strategic plan. Together, these documents will shape RCDSO's priorities and deliverables for the next several years. Senior RCDSO staff have developed a draft RCDSO Vision 2035. This draft vision represents Council's feedback and direction from our discussions in June of 2025. Andrea, Deputy Registrar and Privacy Officer, will walk us through the documents. And Andrea, I'm going to turn it over to you now, please.
Great, thank you, Hanno. So Council, I'm not going to do a slide deck today. I'm just going to really pick out a couple of highlights from the briefing note. I want to allow sort of maximum time for your discussion. So Hanno's introduced it really well. This draft vision document is really the culmination of all of the prep we did for the council retreat back in June and all of the really great conversations and input you provided us at that meeting. You might remember back in September, we gave you an update on this work, and you'll see in the briefing note today, we developed this draft vision document in collaboration with the regulators practice. That's Bradley Chisholm and Kevin McCarthy, who were our two facilitators at the retreat. Bradley and Kevin developed an initial draft, and then senior staff kind of refined that. And when we refined it, we actually had a really great opportunity to bring a draft to the executive committee at the end of October, got some feedback from those committee members, and then finalized the document in the form that it is today. So a couple of things I'll highlight. This is intentionally intended to be short. We were aiming for a document that would be aspirational and really try to match the energy and contributions you gave us in June. We aim to try to capture the majority of the sentiment. Of course, not possible to drill down and to really capture all individual comments, but we were really trying to aim for a document where you can see yourself, you can recall the conversations you had, that it really is reflective of your ideas and aspirations for this college and what we can do over the next 10 years. We've tried to keep the language direct and hopefully clear, free of jargon or anything overly technical. I think ultimately the goal will be, once this is finalized, this will be something we would put on our website. And so really wanting it to be easily understood and consumable by a broad range of audiences. So have worked with the senior team on this, and certainly once we have your direction today, we will work further with the communications department under Leslie Burns' direction to really think about how we can make this visually appealing and so forth. So the documents in front of you, you've got that at, it's Appendix A, and I have that starting at page 470 of your package. We're really interested in two things today. Love to hear your feedback. We can certainly make amendments to this document. So I think, Hannah will initially facilitate some discussion on this, and you can tell us what you think. And then, if the will of council is is to do so, we'd like to get your final approval on the document. And I think we would really address any amendments you might want today. We would just try to address those and take those back, get your direction, take those back and amend it if you're wishing amendments. So maybe I'll stop there. The only further comment I'll make, as Hanno touched on, the next steps, once we have the vision finalized, the next steps is to start work on the strategic plan. And we really want to see relationship between this vision and the strategic plan. So we'll work to ensure that's the case. So I'll leave it there. Hanno, I will turn it back to you and happy to help respond to questions that council you may have.
Okay, thank you so much, Andrea. Judy, you're first on my list, please.
Yes, thank you. Really good work, Andrea. Doing a vision is really difficult. I've done a few myself, and it's a hard task. I do have a couple of comments. In your first sentence, you used the word access and then accessible in the same sentence. And I mean, ideally, one could find a different word for one of those. I would like to suggest that instead of accessible, that we have affordable. I think affordable oral health care is a really big issue, and the affordability affects access. So that would be my suggestion. And in terms of the rest of it, I guess I would like to see something that that uses the word public protection and not just public interest. I don't have a specific point. Like I don't know whether number 3, equip and empower professionals it doesn't work there, but maybe imperative is position us to fill our mandate to protect the public, advance oral health with broader. I mean, those are just some suggestions. I don't know how others feel about it. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Judy.
Thank you, Judy. Dan Haas.
Thanks so much. I agree. I think this is great. I'm very supportive of the statement. I do have 2 minor suggestions I'd like you to consider. And the first is actually the same as what Judy brought up with respect to the word accessible. And at the risk of wordsmithing this too much, I'd like to suggest that it's redundant to have the word accessible in that sentence, because you've already stated that we envision every Ontarian has access to safe and high quality oral health care. So if we have access, it must have been accessible. So again, with respect, I'd suggest just removing the words "and accessible." So it would read, where every Ontarian has access to safe and high quality oral health care. And to Judy's point, I think affordable is already encompassed in that, because if everyone has access to it, the issue of affordability is taken care of. So I think by just removing the word "and accessible," the way would be worded would still achieve the same objective and speak to the importance of access to care. So just suggest that. And if I may, I have a second point. I'm very glad to see that educators are listed as system partners in point number 1, because in so many ways, the missions of the schools, the mission of the college overlap. Under point 3, I see that many of those markers of success will involve the educational partners, specifically, I assume, the 2 dental schools in Ontario, as I believe that they are integral to this part of the vision. And the section may be fine written as is, but I'm wondering, for those drafting it, would consider, just for clarity, that either the words educators or educational partners be included within point 3. So, I mean, this plan's for 10 years, so I'm just concerned that this detail may get lost at some point during the 10-year duration. So if somehow it could be incorporated back in there, it would, to me, emphasize the importance of the educational partners and what the college is doing. Otherwise, I think this is very well done.
Great. Dan, could I just ask one clarification? Your last point, when you said point 3, I just want to really be clear. You're talking about that third number 3, equipping and empowering professionals, somewhere in there
Yes.
to incorporate? Okay, perfect.
Yes,
Thank
correct. Because in there, the
Yeah.
markers of success, a number of them to me, would directly involve the educators. And I guess my concern is this we're going on 10 years, and I would just hate to see that thought lost over at some point in the future.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Ram?
Thank you, Anna. It seems to be a good vision document, in my opinion. I wasn't present during the June retreat due to some emergency. One thing I feel that there is one part of the population which has accessibility problem. There are several studies. I'm talking about the indigenous communities in northern part of the province. There seems to be several problems. I mean, it has been indicated through statistics and studies by native groups and other provincial government also. So I believe in our in this this statement, if there is some mention of indigenous community and their issues identified, I mean, I feel some mention should be there. Within 10 years, we have to deal with some of those issues so that they are equitable with other part of the Ontario population.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ram. I'll just maybe explain in response. We were trying not to identify any particular group just for fear of missing a population who has also experienced issues. Not to take away from your points, of course, they're valid, and I understand the point you're making, but I just wanted to explain. We tried in this document to really deliberately keep it high level. One option just for consideration is, when we get into the development of the strategic plan and then further strategic initiatives and projects, we can think about how to bring in some specificity there on some populations like the Indigenous communities and peoples. So I just wanted to offer that up as a comment so that council could reflect on that and you could reflect on that as well, Ram.
Yeah, and I agree. I think a lot of work is being done. But in 10 years, I felt if there's some mention of Indigenous population, not just a sentence, could cover that.
Okay.
Thank you, Ram. Vivian.
Thank you, Hano. I was just wondering, this is more of a question. This is great summary, great work, Andre and your team. And I know that the retreat we went to, there were lots of good information and lots of points that were brought up. This is a great summary. What about the details that were from the meeting? Are these like filed off somewhere, or would there be more looking into some of the points that were brought up at the retreat? Just a quick question.
Yeah, thanks, Vivian. So we have a detailed report from the regulator's practice, and council members may remember you were circulated a version of that report that really captured the exercises we did over the course of that day and a half and your comments and feedback. So we still have that report, Vivian. We have it saved on file. We'll keep that close as a reference as we go forward and again move deeper into the strategic plan and then projects. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Anthony Mayer.
Thank you so much, Hanno. I don't actually have a question or any editorial stuff, having served on committees with Dan Hawes and Judy Willikowicz. I know well that those two have it in hand. I have a comment, actually. I want to commend you, Andrea, and your staff for mentioning right touch regulation with a link on page 471. Anybody who knows me on council knows that this is a subject very dear to my heart, and it's not actually in the material. So I am here to make the case to all my fellow council members to please click on that link and read it. It's 29 pages with lots of pretty colors and great images. And it's a really cogent analysis of the role that regulators play in modulating risk, not just unacceptable risk, but also acceptable risk. And it talks about the dangers of not only not enough regulation, but too much regulation. And it's also referenced on page 177 as well. So that's my whole thing. Just please, everybody, read it because it's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. Aaron?
Yes, thank you. I was going to say something similar to what Andrea said, where I think it's good that we keep it broad. And Dan's suggestion to just state it simply as access to care is a good one. And the reason is there are a lot of barriers in access to care. I mean, this morning we heard about trauma-informed care. There's culturally safe care, as Ram was touching on. There's financial issues, as Judy mentioned, and lots of other ones that that different groups can face. So by keeping it broad, I think we're covering all of those. And we're leaving it open either via the strategic plan, if in 5 years when we do not this next plan, but a subsequent one, we can respond to needs there. Or this will also feed into standards as well, like the one that we've just developed on professionalism, where we touch quite a bit on access to care and what dentists' duties are based on those principles. So good job on this document. I'm really looking forward to seeing where it goes.
Thanks, Aaron. Anthony Lisho.
Thank you very much, Hanno. I wanted to commend Andrea and her team as well. And I don't have a question, but just a comment about the my comment about the generous shall we say broadness of this document, because that leaves us a lot to become specific as may be required in the future. So I think the broader we can be at this stage of the process, the better. So again, commend you and your team. I think it's great, and I agree with it.
Thank you, Noah.
Thank you, Hanno. Yes, just echoing everyone and thanking Andrea and the team for the hard work on this. I agree that we, keeping it broad is good. Accessibility does encompass the 5 A's of access, which are essentially, they include affordability, availability, accommodation, acceptability, and whatnot. And so accessibility can be a comprehensive term that includes all of this. So.
Thank you, Patrick.
I think Noah may have just answered my question, but without having had the benefit of the June meeting, was the term accessibility meant to include affordability, or is it? I'm just sort of reacting to what Daniel and Judy were talking about earlier.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, in a word, yes. I think we were trying to capture there the dimensions of access.
Okay.
Which Noah mentioned. There's 5 elements. I don't have them all 5 committed to memory. Somebody may. Affordability is one for sure. But certainly, I've heard the proposed edits. Dan House's proposed edits to sort of remove that sentence and just go with access to, like that people have access to. Happy to do that. But yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
Thanks, Andrea. Great work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Brian Smith.
Thank you. First of all, Andrea and the staff involved, great work on this. I think as a vision, it's forward looking, obviously, but also is flexible enough that as we know, times and circumstances change going forward. we'll be able to adapt to that, and that's the way I think it should be. As well, I appreciate the comments of Daniel, Anthony, and Judy in particular when she mentioned the references to protecting the public, big part of our responsibility, so that is accurately and prominently reflected there. So again, well done. Good job.
Thank you. Judy.
Yes, thank you. I'm just not clear. Are we voting on a final one today, or because I'm like, I would like to see some modifications to this other than the removal of the word accessible. And I'm just not I'm not really seeing any real conversation about what that would look like. Because I have a couple of comments in terms of just removing the word accessible and leaving it at safe and high quality. I understand that affordability is a big component of access, and this is going to also be a public-facing document. It's going to be a communication to the public of what this college sees as its mission and vision. And I think affordability is probably on everybody's mind, no matter what community you are a part of. And so I don't know like if I should be moving amendments to this or what, but I just think that I don't know whether including a word like affordable is too political for the college. I'm not really sure what the issue is. And then in terms of the last paragraph, I would like to see some conversation about whether or not it should say these imperatives position to us to fulfill our mandate to protect the public. In the public interest is just, it doesn't even flow grammatically that well. And it doesn't really mean that much, whereas to protect the public would have a much stronger impact. So I'm really not sure where this is going.
So maybe Judy, let me respond to that. I think it's really, we wanted to kind of bring it to council today. The idea was if council was comfortable and the amendments were relatively minor, that we would take away the suggestions for amendment and have you vote on approving this document with those amendments that have been discussed. So that was kind of the vision. So really, I mean, I think that is an option for council to move ahead with. If council doesn't wish to approve this today and wishes it to come back to the February meeting, that is also an option available to you. So I think what we were aiming for was to sort of present this to you, see how it lands, see what the reactions are. And again, if amendments were relatively minor, we would take the motion for this item and simply add, approve the document as amended. So that's what we're thinking of. I hope that helps answer.
Well, not really, because I just don't think that council should, this is just my view, but the council should be approving a document that is then going to be subject to amendment by staff. This is a vision document that needs council approval, and council should be approving the final wording, not wording to be amended. So I can't support this document as is. And as I said, I would like to see some discussion about some different elements. And maybe what you need to do is come back to the February meeting and bring some options as opposed to a single final version of this. And the options could incorporate the different the other comments made this afternoon, and then we could vote on, we maybe come to a consensus about which was the best option. Those are my comments.
Okay, so Judy, can I just one clarification? When you're talking about options, are you talking about like redlining the proposals today and bringing that version to February? Is that what you mean? I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, redline it and come back with some options, or an option that incorporates the comments that were made today. And with some explanations as to, you know, why. So for example, if you decide you heard my comments about affordability being in there. If you decide as a senior leadership team that you don't really want to see that in there, then I'd like to understand why. So if you know, so bring it back. Let's have a conversation about it, as opposed to getting, 25 minutes to decide on the vision. I mean, I know we worked with the regulators practice too, and that was a great event. But you can't. I just think a vision needs more than 25 minutes on a packed agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well said.
Thank you. Osama?
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Judy's saying. Like, I like the three pillars that are there. I think the overall picture is very consistent with our meeting that we had in June. But I think you know, maybe even setting up something in February where we could do some small, maybe a couple of breakout rooms where we can kind of open up the dialogue again with this and loop back around with the information that was that's been presented here. I do want to add one more piece, and that is I do think that all three of those pillars are they're kind of really there needs to be some sort of overarching theme that connects the three of them. And so that might be the piece that really can be very useful. Again, from my standpoint, I think it's more like it should be more data driven. I think there's got to be more like data management, and I think that the college could be in a really unique position to collect the data and interpret the data, to be leaders in the field in terms of that. So I actually think it's I agree a lot with Judy saying here. I think it's the three themes there that they're awesome, but I think we can open up some more information from them.
Thank you. Dan, are you on the list or do you want to respond? Dan Faulkner, sorry.
Yeah, I can wait till Ram goes. I'll stay in the queue.
Okay, Ram, you're next.
Yeah, I guess I agree with Judy. I think it should be brought back with clear indication of our discussion today, and final we can approve in February.
Thank you. Dan Faulkner?
Yeah, just look, we're here to serve council. This is a document that is going to live for 10 years. And so obviously we might tweak it as we move forward. And if it becomes outdated for whatever reason, then we want to be able to go back and look at it. But I just, at some point we have to figure out what the end is for this, because I think we did have, council had a huge discussion for a day and a half in June. And we can absolutely come back, and if you want to do breakout groups, no problem. If you want to have more time for discussion, we wanted to get some of that on the table today. But we need to also figure out when we will land on something. And so we can bring back, we can only bring back what we've heard today. And we have reflected what you told us in June. So it's not, and Osama, I totally respect what you're getting at in terms of, maybe there's some different ways that we want to be visionary. But we're trying to reflect back to you what we heard from this council in June. So we will do that. We will put together some commentary on some of the things that you've suggested today. We'll figure out what the best forum is for that in February. And we also want to land at some point, because I know this is the kind of thing where we could talk a lot. We all have lots of different views on this. But in order to move forward and in order to develop the 3 or 5 year strategic plan, we want to use this as the anchor. And I think all of us want to be comfortable that we've got the right anchor.
Thanks, Dan. Dan Fortino.
The document, thanks for the presentation, Andrew, is excellent. I mean, it's really well thought out. I think it takes into account what we did in June and kind of lays something out for us. But I want to reiterate and support Judy what she was saying, because the importance of this, like Dan Faulkner said, is for the next 10 years. So I think a strong, well-defined vision is essential. I think some definition and defining of what accessibility is important in the document. The 3 different topics that are laid out there are great. That captures what we did in June. But I think because the importance of it, it's hard to, and what Judy was saying, it's hard to make a decision within 30 minutes. And that's going to kind of dictate and have our vision for the next 10 years. It's important, I think, to discuss and kind of be nitpicky about what we want in there, because it really sets the long-term direction of the college. So overall, I think it's a great document. It puts in a great kind of work in terms of what we did in June. But I think to have more discussion on it overall is important. So I kind of see Judy's points, and I just want to reiterate that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Harinder?
Thank you, Hanno. May I suggest that all the members, whatever they're suggesting, they send that feedback to Andrea in the intervening period until February, and then we finalize the whole thing in February. And at that point, as Osama has mentioned, there might be some small room breakout sessions with groups. I think it will serve the purpose well if people send their input between now and before February, so that Andrea can be very clear where she's being directed to go. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Andrea nodding her head, so I think that's good. I'm going to go to Mark. Then I have Anthony, Lisho, and Aaron. Mark?
Yeah, thanks, Sam. I think there's been a really robust conversation today, some very good points and thoughts generated, initiated by Judy, and thank you, Judy, for stepping forth in that regard. My thinking is that I think we're generally all aligned with regards to the general focus in terms of the vision. We're working very diligently on fine-tuning key elements and correspondingly the wording. If we defer this to June, which I'm supportive of, I just want to make sure that we're not losing traction with regards to the scheduling development of our strategic plan. And so I'm questioning whether staff can concurrently keep moving forward in terms of roughing out the key elements of that strategic plan, notwithstanding the finalization of the vision statement can be tabled for approval with drafts in front of council for the June meeting. So to the extent I support everything stated today and the key messaging, I'm equally keeping my eye on the scheduling of that strategic plan. Dan, your thought?
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm thinking you're meaning the February council meeting and not the June council meeting.
The February council meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Anthony Lisho and then Aaron.
Mark, sorry, Hanno, could I just respond to Mark for a moment?
Yes.
I just don't want to let that drop. Mark, thank you. And yes, we can. I mean, as Dan said, we want to make sure you feel comfortable. And so I think what we'll do, we'll go back and look at our timelines, and we'll do our best to sort of see how we can stay on track with the strategic plan. I think it's helpful, Mark, as you said, that we're hearing today some fine tuning and some suggestions to edits, but that generally my sense is that this is resonating, that the concepts and ideas are those that you support, you recognize, your conversations in. So that's really helpful to us. And we will, we'll look at how we can do both concurrently to try to stay on track. But thank you, Mark, for raising that.
That's great, Andrea. Thank you.
Thank you. Anthony Lisho?
Yes, thank you, Hanno. I think the difference here is from broadness to more specific. and I don't know how far we could go. We could go very far or not at all. We keep mentioning the fact that this is a 10-year, this is going to exist for 10 years. I think Dan Faulkner pointed that out, that, changes can be made. As things change, we can update it. 5 years, 3 years, 7 years, whatever. So we'll keep that in mind. And the thing is, when does specifics stop? Those are all great comments, Judith. I really appreciate that you brought that to our attention. But specifics could go on and on and on. So I just want council to keep that in mind, that the intent here, from my understanding, was to keep it as general as possible. And I think that Andrea and her staff have done that. And these comments that have been made are really, really good. And maybe they can just tweak it. But I think it's still important to keep it as broad as possible, so that if something comes up in the future, we can tweak it again. It's not bound for 10 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Aaron.
Yes, thank you. I was going to say something fairly similar to what Anthony just said. Like, this is meant to be broad. It's going to be presented in all different ways, shapes, and forms, I'm sure, as we go along. And I think we need to draw a line between what we're putting in here and what's going to go into the strategic plan. And the strategic plan is going to be where the details and definitions and action plans will be. And will that be guided by a specific word or two that we're discussing today? Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. Probably not is my guess, depending on the word. And I think, February is only 8 weeks away, which is great. But I think we also want to be careful that we're not going back to repeat what we did in June again, which is how we came to generate this document to begin with. So we need to think of what kind of value we're going to get if we reopen that discussion and go back to square one, versus just making minor tweaks and suggestions as we've suggested today, and then leaving the remainder of the details for the next stage of this project.
Thanks, Aaron. Osama.
Sorry, I wasn't going to say anything, but I decided after hearing Aaron. So I think and Judy, correct me if I'm wrong, I think what Judy's trying to say, and the message here is, there was a brainstorming session done in June, and that information was collected, and now it's available to us. It's been packaged nicely, but there still we need some time for it to kind of marinate and to reassess, to put a bow tie on this, to let it set in the way we want it to be done, because it's such this is a very, very important document that's going to be set up. So I agree with Harinder. I think, a few months where we can kind of loop back, let this marinate, add in some pertinent information, and then perhaps, do some small breakout rooms to validate the overall pillars for this. You could still keep it general. We're not talking about the specifics, to make sure that the vision, and I want to reiterate this, the vision and the 3 pillars need to be, they need to have an overarching theme that connects the 3 of them in order for it to be, easily constructed and completed in the future. So forgive me if I've kind of misinterpreted some of the information here, but that's where I see things going. Thanks.
Thank you, Osama. Based on what I've been hearing, particularly on the last little bit, my sense is that we're not going to be moving forward with the motion, that Andrea has taken copious notes, as have staff, in terms of the feedback that's been provided, the suggestions that have been made, the concerns that have been raised, and that we will come back to this again in February, mindful also of what Dan Faulkner said in terms of, this is not something that we can continue to push off down the road. At some point in time, council has to deal with this and make a decision to deal with it. So that's my understanding. So I see Andrea's nodding her head. So we will move on from this item on the agenda, but I see Harinder's hand is up. So I'm going to go to you next, Harinder.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that everybody understands that in this intervening period, give all whatever information, suggestions you want to give, and then let's, as Osama said, put a bow on it in February. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, just 1 second. I just wanted to thank council for the discussion today. I have taken some notes, but please feel free to contact me with specific suggestions or if things occur to you after the meeting. I'll start, working with others to see how we can refine and respond to your feedback today. And then we'll plan, as discussed, we'll plan to bring this back to you at your meeting in February. So thank you for the discussion.
Thank you very much, Dan Faulkner.
I was only going to say that we will prompt you, council. So you'll leave this meeting and you might forget to send the suggestions, but we will send out a reminder and give you some deadlines for you to meet so that we're ready for February. But it's been a great discussion, and I think I won't prolong it, but I've got a couple of thoughts, I think, to the comments about what's the overarching theme that sort of brings all of these pillars together. And some of the other more specific ways in which we might, be aspirational and live these three pillars, but through things like you mentioned, Osama, like we want to be a leading analytics, data and analytics organization. I think we can do that within those pillars. I think you have to be that to fulfill and achieve what we've said is the long-term vision. But we'll have more to come.
Thank you, and thank you all for your meaningful discussion and input. I'm aware of the time. We've already gone officially 2 minutes past the meeting. There is one item left for business. I mean, items 13 and 14 are not going to take a long time. So I would like to direct Council's attention to item number 12 on the agenda. And this has to do with RCDSO's financial contributions to dental schools in Ontario and recommendations to increase impact, improve equity, and create better alignment with RCDSO's strategic goals. You will be hearing about a proposed framework to support dental students using our existing budget. The Executive Committee has reviewed this direction and adds its support. There's a note in your package on pages 473 to 477. And before I turn it over to Michelle, I do want to indicate that at the beginning of the meeting, both Dan Haas and Noah indicated to us that, just out of due diligence, they wanted to raise what could potentially be seen as a conflict of interest. They reached out and had discussions yesterday. And again, I don't want to put words in your mouths, but my understanding is based on those discussions, Dan and Noah, do you feel good in terms of continuing on, or do you feel you would like to be recused from this item on the agenda?
I feel I do not have a conflict of interest, so I'm pleased to stay here unless there's an objection from council.
Okay, thank you, Noah.
Me as well.
Okay, so thank you. In terms of hearing that, I'm going to quickly ask if anyone on council has a concern based on what we've heard from both Noah and Daniel, and in terms of what they've already done in terms of being proactive yesterday. Please indicate that now. I am seeing nothing. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Michelle Tremblay, Organizational Transformation and College Equity Officer, to lead the discussion. Over to you, Michelle, please.
Thanks, Hanno, and good afternoon, Council. It's always a privilege to bring topics related to change, transformation, and alignment to our strategic vision to you. I do know I am between you and the end of the day, so for your comfort, I just wanted to let you know that I only have 4 slides. So you can breathe a sigh of relief on that one. As Hanno mentioned, you'll find the related resources to this topic that I'm about to talk to at 473 and 477 of your package. And the purpose of my presentation today is to share our current practices as it relates to contributions to the faculties. And for our new public member, that is both at U of T and Western, and that's been mentioned in the meeting today. Those are the 2 faculties we're discussing today. And to Dan Haas's point in one of our previous conversations, the faculties are an important system partner to support the college vision. And so I think this is part of that storyline that we'll be speaking of today. I've been speaking to both teams at the faculties over the past year about our contributions, and I know that they are also joining us on the live stream today, so thank you for watching. And so, Council, today I'll be seeking your approval to work with the faculties to design a plan to refresh our contributions for greater impact for the future dentists that are coming our way and the public they will be caring for. So let's take a small step back. As you know, dental education in Ontario is very costly. And for, our public members who may not be aware, tuition fees are ranging from about $45,000 to $55,000 annually. And that's for a 4-year DDS program. And as you can imagine, there is significant pressure on new dentists in today's context. Currently, RCDSO allocates our contributions into 3 main buckets: scholarships and awards, graduation events, and faculty fees. And we have a few awards that are given directly to students that are merit-based, and you'll see that in the briefing note. And these are typically given to students with the highest grade in general science or the highest grade in their class. Our graduation events are also something that we provide some resources to. Normally, it's attended by the president, registrar, deputy registrar, and sometimes other council members who provide a speech and sometimes give out awards those days. And then faculty fees is another purse that we provide to the faculties. This policy was actually last reviewed in 2015, so it's been quite some time since council has reflected on the policy. And essentially, it supports annual membership fees for 25 faculty members. And these are folks who otherwise do not engage in dental practice. They require a membership in order to fulfill their duties at the faculties. They have no other sources of income from dentistry, and they're offering their services to the faculties. And so essentially the structure and amount of the contributions that we have remained largely unchanged for decades. And so we have an opportunity to refocus our existing budget to be more relevant in today's context, to create the conditions to better support our strategic vision and priorities. And likely this will require some revising of our awards and eligibility requirements. So now is the right time to review our funding. And first, our awards have been lagging behind. We've heard this from faculties. I've been having those conversations with the awards folks that other donors have increased their levels of giving, and we actually haven't. And so it makes our awards less competitive and less impactful. And I've spoken to faculty reps about their goals, and many of them are starting to revise their donor strategies for more sustainable awards for students. And second, with our 10-year strategic vision that we just finished speaking about, with our new strategic plan, we may want to give a think about having merit-based, exclusively merit-based awards for students. And it limits the opportunities for us to really align our giving to the faculties with leadership, professionalism, equity, access to care, the things that we are saying around the council table that matter and our values to the college at this point. And third, the faculties are very engaged, and they're using different strategies to support the future dentists, dental professionals in Ontario. And we need to refresh our thinking and how we provide funding and align our activities together. And so let me just give you a quick example of that. So this year, the RCDSO provided sponsorship, and it was the first of its kind to Professionalism Day at Western. And this event brought together year 1 through 4 dentistry students, faculty, and staff, and distinguished guests from across the dental profession, including some of our own members of our team at the RCDSO. And you'll see on screen some quotes from participants about how this Professionalism Day was supporting their foundation of trust and quality care, and how the day helped them to think about the future teams that they're going to lead and the necessity of understanding professionalism and how the day supported that. And I know that plans are underway to make this day a core day and tradition at Western, to continue to foster that ethical reflection that we hope dentists will have in how they treat their patients. Oopsie daisy, I just went over one. So this is the type of creative thinking happening at our faculties, and I think it makes sense for us to support this type of work. But currently, we don't have a framework for how we approve or, look at these types of requests that are coming from faculties that are a little different than what we've done in the past. So in addition to this great example of the Professionalism Day, there's a few examples and recommendations that I've put in the briefing note about how we can reimagine the budget that we currently have for greater impact. Perhaps we introduce a bursary from the RCDSO to meet the greatest need. Perhaps we have an Indigenous student bursary in partnership with an Indigenous organization. Perhaps we think about how we fund days like the Professionalism Day or other creative contributions that might help outreach, leadership, vulnerable populations. There's lots that we can be doing with these funds, and I think there's an expansion that's just waiting to happen at the RCDSO. And all of these considerations and initiatives would come back to council as a proposal and a package of how we can use our current budgeted amount. So council, today you're being asked to consider an approval of staff proceeding to develop a plan and bring it back to council as a proposal on how we use our existing budget for greater impact for the future of the profession and the public that they will be caring for. I'm happy to take questions, hear your reflections and any suggestions that you might have as we go forward. And I'm also happy to hear the thoughts of you, Dan and Noha. I know you've raised a potential conflict, but you're on the ground and I would love to hear your comments as well. So I'm just going to stop sharing and I'll turn it back to you, Hannah.
Thank you so much for that, Michelle. Peter Deline.
Hello, Michelle. Thank you for that report. I think this is brilliant stuff. And I think I've been on council about 7 years now. And I am extremely pleased to see this. Thank you.
Okay, Peter, thank you for the comments.
Jamie Colliver.
Oh, hi. Thanks, Hanno. You've identified a group that the college may want to support. And I appreciate that. I've been involved in another organization whereby we were assessing where funds would go from a nonprofit organization. And once we mentioned one group, there was 5 or 6 additional groups identified as potential receivers of funds or scholarships. So how would you deal with that?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, Jamie. And I think there's 2 pieces to this. One, we are going to be walking through an Indigenous reconciliation action plan. So that part may draw out some strategies related to how we address supporting Indigenous communities and Indigenous dentists. And we do know from the Indigenous Dental Association of Canada some of the challenges. Both of the faculties are in Southern Ontario in very expensive cities. And addressing other access to care gaps for Indigenous communities will require some contemplation of how we support that on a number of fronts. So I think that's the first thing. And second, the faculties they know where the biggest gaps are. They know the students who are struggling. They know where they need funding support. And so I think we would work with them to identify how best to position a bursary for the broadest reach. And I agree with you on that. There are a lot of communities and people and students who need support. I think right now saying you have the highest grade in general science is definitely a smaller pot. And so we can do better with our resources. I hope that answers your question, Jamie.
Yeah, and all I'm suggesting is these other groups were diverse.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Brian Smith.
Thank you. Congratulations, Michelle, and thank you very much for your presentation. It is, I think, right on with what we should be doing at RCDSO in our support of faculties, and so that we can work to support them, and certainly it's a benefit to the entire program to do that. So I support 100%. What you're suggesting there, and look forward to future reports.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Osama.
Thank you. This is a fantastic initiative. So I was thinking of a really cool idea. I don't even know if this is within this kind of structure, this mandate for this, but would there be an opportunity to create these scholarships where some of these students can go up north to kind of underserved communities with affiliated dentists who have they already teach at the University of Toronto once a month and in an area where there's no dental school and perhaps get some exposure to some of those rural communities through some sort of scholarship.
Really cool idea. Thanks, Osama. And if anyone generates any of that in the middle of the night, and you want to flip me an email, that's a fantastic idea, and I'll explore that with the faculty.
Thank you. Dan Fortino?
Yeah, great idea, Osama. That is awesome. And this is a great initiative for sure, especially for people in dental school. Obviously, there are hardships that everyone faces. So this is something that the RCDSO could definitely step up and show that respect and kind of have a mutual respect for the profession as well. It'd be interesting to have bursaries or awards linked, if at all possible, to the RCDSO mandate. So people that show high quality of ethics and professionalism or safety and quality or leadership. I think to tie it in with what the mandate is and award based on correlation to the RCDSO mandate proves to be a bit better rather than just, oh, if you have the highest grades or whatnot. I think incorporating a bunch of different facets to really emphasize this is why the RCDSO is here and this is why we're rewarding you is going to go a longer way in terms of from the profession side, in my opinion. Just a thought.
Thanks, Daniel. That's excellent. Thank you.
I have Ram, Dan Haas, and Noah on my list still. So Ram, you're next.
Thank you, Michelle. It was a great program. Particularly, you have included the Indigenous bursaries. And I like the idea Osama has initiated. I think it would be a wonderful thing to send some students up north in isolated communities to provide some basic information and some treatment. That would be great.
Thanks, Fernand.
Thank you, Dan Haas.
Yes, just two quick points. One is I'm obviously supportive of this whole initiative and working closely with the people at the two schools. Further to Osama's point, both schools already have some outreach initiatives, and I think that's what you're getting at. And I think it's a great idea to support those even more strongly. And it's not just service delivery; it's not just providing dental care, but it's really about cultural competency, because both schools are in big cities, et cetera. But it's helping the students understand differences as we go forward. So both schools have these initiatives, and I think more support of that is even better so that we can continue along that road. And support from the RCDSO would be fantastic. Thank you.
Noah?
Thank you, Hanno. So yeah, great initiative. Michelle, thank you for working on this. I echo what Dan was saying. This is all great. I was wondering if there is also a possibility to, with the focus on professionalism, to support research and professionalism, like an award for students who, I know both schools are working on some research in this area. So potentially for graduating dental students who have been working on projects in that sense. Another point that I maybe wanted to add is to also recognize that there are postgraduate students and residents who are also going to become RCDSO members or who already are, who may be working on suggested research projects in this area as well. So potentially some support for them in terms of awards. So yeah.
Thanks, Noha. That's a great idea.
Thank you, Anthony Lisho.
Thank you, Hanno. Michelle, great initiative, and I'm totally supportive. I want to thank Dan Fortino for bringing what's very close to me in my heart, and that's ethics. I think today the phrase we used to use was the art and science of dentistry. Today it's the art of business in dentistry. And I think we've, as a profession, it's gotten away from us, and it's not the RCDSO's fault. There's a lot of dentists that are very ethical, but we all hear stories from our patients and other areas that ethics is really not what it used to be or it should be. So, Dan, thank you for bringing that up. And I think that, Michelle, I think you should think about keeping that in mind. I know it's kind of broad, but and I don't know how we could implement it, but somehow I think it's very, very important to me, and it should be to the profession. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you. And the last speaker before I'm going to have the motion put on the screen is Deborah.
Oh, you're muted, Deborah.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No.
Thank you for the presentation. It was excellent. Again, a wonderful initiative. I just was wondering if there is a possibility also to recognize the volunteerism of the instructors. If the students could vote on who they felt maybe the top 3 instructors were that they felt the faculties were, as a recognition for their hard work, because I don't really think they get paid very much either, but a small token, just recognition for their dedication to the teaching profession at the universities. I know there's a program that they were using the schools at my daughter's schools, and it's called the ACE program, and the children get to vote in the classroom which student was ACE of the week, and it just transforms the whole classroom into something very positive. You can do that with students, or you can recognize the students who the other students feel and give them recognition for their contribution, or even the instructors as well. Just to use that sort of student vote as opposed to faculty voting who would receive a bursary. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you. Thanks again, Michelle, for your presentation and for all the hard work you have done for this, you and your team. At this point in time, I would ask that the motion be put on the screen for council's consideration. And it is motion number 6, that council approves staff proceeding to work on a proposal to update awards and contributions with faculties to better align with the RCDSO's mandate and strategic priorities. That's moved by Ram, seconded by Vivian. Everyone, please put your hands down now. I'm going to again, before I turn it over to Dan to do the official roll call, one last opportunity if you have a question for Michelle. Okay, seeing none. And Dan, just a heads up, Anthony Mayer had to leave, so he's off your list for the roll call.
Okay, thanks, Hanno. Patrick Ballantyne.
In favor.
Nalan Bhargava.
In favor?
Ram Chopra.
In favor.
Jamie Colliver.
In favor.
Peter Delane.
In favor.
Daniel Fortino.
In favor?
Neil Gajar.
In favor.
Noha Goma.
In favor?
Dan Haas.
In favor.
Iliad Hornaparvar.
In favor.
Vivian Hu.
In favor.
Nizar Ladak. Okay. Anthony Licio.
In favor.
Harinder Sandhu.
In favor.
Adele Simeone.
In favor.
Brian Smith.
In favor.
Osama Solomon.
In favor.
Robin Somerville.
In favor.
Rod Stapleforth.
In favor.
Mark Trudell.
Absolutely in favor.
Aaron Walker.
In favor.
Judy Welakovich. Is Judy there? Okay, and Deborah Wilson.
In favor.
Okay, so we did have a couple who may have left as well. We do have everyone who voted in favor, though.
Thank you very much, Dan, and thank you very much again, Michelle, and thank you, Council, for your incredible input. Item number 13 on the agenda is other business. Nothing was put in the parking lot. Nothing was taken out of the consent agenda, so I'll do a quick look on my screen to see if anyone has something that they feel needs to be included in this spot. Seeing none, I'm going to move now to item 14. We've come to the end of today's agenda. A reminder that, oh, Anthony Lisho, do you have a question? Or?
Yes, I do. I just wondered if the college had learned any more about what the Ontario government did, which I read about just recently, a day or so ago, about a grant of $2 million to one dental office. And I don't need a big answer. I just want to make sure that we're aware of that and that we're looking into, what that all means. Thank you.
I think, Anthony, all I can say is we are aware of that.
Okay, thank you. Reminder, Council, that our next meeting will be a Zoom meeting, and it will be held on Thursday, February 19th. We will also be live streaming this meeting. So at this point in time, I would like to thank all council members for their engaged participation today, your input, your comments, your questions, your concerns. As always, a huge thank you to staff, and not only the faces that we tend to see in front of us on the screen, but to all the people who are working behind the scenes. You do a Herculean role in terms of getting all this organized and out to council members, and you're instrumental in this, in council, running as smoothly as it always does. So a huge thank you to that. And before I officially look for a motion to adjourn, I'm going to turn it over quickly to Harinder, who I know would like to say one or two closing comments.
Thank you, Hanno. And first of all, I want to thank you for running such a great meeting, keeping us on time as much as you could. Great discussion. You gave time to everybody. And I want to thank all of you, council members, your commitment and collaboration this year. Thank you for all that you do in the interest of the public. May this season bring you rest, joy, and meaningful moments for those who matter most. I'm looking forward to achieving great things together in the new year ahead, and all the best. Have safe holidays. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Harinder. And the very last item on the agenda, and we will not do a roll call for this, is the motion to adjourn. Oh, Anthony Lisha, was that a question you have up, or is that?
Not a question.
Okay, you're moving to adjourn the meeting?
Correct.
Okay, seconded by Noah. All those in favor, raise your hands. And thank you. That motion is carried. The meeting is officially adjourned. Have a great rest of the week. Happy holidays, however you celebrate. And we will see everyone again in February. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.